Chapter 4463. Xueqi used the profound ice arts to resist it. At the same time, the bloodline hidden in her body erupted. Even so, it was still very painful. Lin Xian was naturally able to sense how terrifying the black frost was. He unleashed the Nine Suns' divine fire to resist it. At the same time, he pushed it far away, and his eyes flickered. On the other side, a soul floated out. Its soul light was already very dim. It was obvious that it would soon disappear. She looked ahead and sighed as well. Was it too much for her? Could it be that the 9-yin inheritance couldn't be continued? Lin Xian asked. Senior, you chanted a chant before, 9-yin and 9-yang. Which one is stronger and which one is weaker? Is there really someone who can fuse the 9-yin and 9-yang? The soul sighed. I don't know. It's just a chant passed down from ancient times. I don't know whether there really was someone who managed to fuse the two. However, I can tell you something. When the 9-yang divine body reached great mastery, it would be comparable to a great emperor. It was the same for the 9-yin body. In the ancient times, someone obtained two inheritances and wanted to fuse them together. However, he went crazy. In the ancient times, someone obtained two inheritances. This time he didn't cultivate them. Instead, he comprehended them from the two inheritances. He managed to cultivate the Tao of Yin and Yang, and he became a Yin-Yang great emperor. In the endless years, several great emperors appeared. They were the 9-yang divine body and the 9-yin body. However, it was too difficult to fuse the two together. However, if one managed to fuse them together, one's physique would become extremely powerful. My guess is that it wouldn't be weaker than the Crown Prince's physique. Is the Crown Prince really that powerful? Lin Xian was surprised. Of course, that's because you haven't heard of how powerful the great emperors are. The descendants of the great emperors have the same bloodline as the great emperors. Moreover, they are the first generation. When those people grow up, they will become extremely heaven-defying. Of course, none of them will be able to become a great emperor again. This was because the bloodline in their bodies was their greatest help, but it was also their greatest restriction. Even so, they were still supreme existences that could sweep through the universe. Although the 9-yang divine body was powerful, it could only be ranked 11th in the myriad heavens rankings. The 9-yang divine body was only ranked 11th. Lin Xian was completely stunned. That soul had said that it was right, because the top 10 all had the physique of an imperial prince. What about the 9-yin body? Lin Xian asked. According to the soul, the 9-yin body was ranked 12th. However, she coldly snorted. This was only because there were less descendants of the 9-yin body than the 9-yang divine body. Otherwise, how could the 9-yang divine body be ranked below the 9-yang divine body? Upon hearing this, Lin Xian smiled awkwardly. It seemed that the battle between the two godly bodies had been quite fierce. Lin Xian already knew that there were ancient clans and emperor clans. He had even seen many extreme Daowu. However, he had never seen the real emperor's son before. However, thinking about it, there must be some on the buried emperor star. He was really looking forward to having a battle with such a person. The soul looked at Lin Xian and said, Brat, don't think that you can be arrogant just because the 9-yang divine body is ranked 11th. That was referring to the large success stage 9-yang divine body. There were many descendants of godly bodies that were killed before they could fully mature. Therefore, you should try to keep a low profile in the future. I know. Lin Xian nodded. At this moment, Xueqi suddenly roared. Immediately after, she spat out a mouthful of blood and her entire body was covered in black frost. Her body fell backwards. Seeing this scene, the soul cried out in alarm. Not good, am I going to fail? Lin Xian took a step forward and caught the falling body. He felt an extremely terrifying cold energy coming from his hands, as if it was going to freeze him completely. What should he do? Lin Xian looked at the soul. There's no other way, it seems like it's too difficult. However, she was still persevering, unwilling to give up. If she died like this, it would only be a matter of time. Lin Xian sighed. Is there no other way? The soul suddenly sneered coldly. There's a way, but I'll give you another opportunity. As he spoke, he waved his hand and released a dense fog that enveloped Lin Xian. Lin Xian felt dizzy, and his divine awareness became fuzzy again. Damn it! Is this old thing using this kind of technique on me again? Lin Xian could already guess what was going to happen next. However, he was already unable to resist. Xueqi felt that she was extremely cold, as if she was going to be frozen by 10,000 years old ice. As a genius of the ice element, she was never afraid of ice. However, this time, she was really afraid. It seemed like the ice was going to seal her soul in ice. Suddenly, she felt a warm feeling coming from behind her. It was as if a sun had fallen into a snowy mountain. It allowed her to find hope. She grabbed the sun and didn't let it go. Looking at the scene before her, Soul smiled. She rushed out of the cave and said, "I wonder if my method will work." However, this was her last chance. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. The people who had entered Mount Han also quickly retreated. A month had already passed. In the land of Mount Han, a storm had begun to blow, freezing everything. The Saint Kings couldn't stay any longer. They could only leave. This time, each of the grotto heavens and clans had suffered losses. Of course, there were also gains. Many people had obtained spirit fruits and all kinds of good fortune. Their strength had increased greatly. As for their companions, quite a few of them had also perished in there. The people of Xiling Grotto Heaven gathered outside. Their faces were extremely ugly. This time, young Master Ling Tian was seriously injured and poisoned. It seemed that he was in imminent danger. After they came out, they immediately left. They had to ask the Supreme Elder for help. Fu Hongya followed them expressionlessly. However, he was relieved because he was no longer under the control of the life and death curse. He went back to get more resources. On the other side, Yin Su and the others came out of Green Hill Paradise. Meng Hao and the others also came out of Haran Paradise with smiles on their faces. They had also gained some gains. It seemed that they had to go into seclusion for a while. The others did the same. On the other hand, the people of Thousand Mountain Paradise were frowning. They had been happy for a while when young Master Ling Tian was injured. Now they could finally give Violet Spirit Paradise a blow. However, they soon realized that something was wrong. Yan Jiu and Xueqi hadn't come out yet. Not only that, but Elder Jinfeng hadn't come out either. He was a Saint King. What was going on? Could it be that something dangerous had happened? They were extremely anxious. The identities of these two people were not ordinary. Let's wait patiently. Perhaps something has delayed them. Elder Heavenly Strategies said in a deep voice. The people of Thousand Mountain Paradise waited here. Thank you for the gift from the cafe. Thank you for the gift from Destiny. Thank you for the gift from the desolate moonlight. Thank you for the gift from Su. Thank you for the gift from Xiangxiang's father. Thank you for the gift from the end of the show. Thank you for the gift. Thank you for your monthly votes and recommendation votes. Please recommend, subscribe, bookmark, monthly votes and recommendation votes. Chapter 4464. At the same time, in the endless mountains of Thousand Mountain Grotto, there was a floating palace. This was the core area of Thousand Mountain Grotto. Ordinary people could not come here, because this was the place where the Supreme Elder was in charge. At this moment, the Supreme Elder in the palace suddenly opened his eyes and let out a crazy roar. Above the 9 heavens, thousands of miles of space collapsed, and the stars in the sky dimmed. The entire Thousand Mountain Cave was shaking violently. What happened? Everyone in Thousand Mountain Grotto was stunned. The elders all flew into the sky and looked into the distance. It was the Sagely Heaven's old ancestor who was angry. Song Tianya, who offended this living fossil. The Sagely Heaven's old ancestor was one of the Supreme Elders. He was so strong that he had reached the Great Sage Realm. Such a person was extremely terrifying. Normally, no one would dare to offend him. Even the Mansion Master of Thousand Mountain Grotto would not dare to be presumptuous in front of him. Now that he was angry, it was really surprising. At this moment, countless streams of light streaked across the sky. The leader was a middle-aged man. He asked nervously, "Father, what happened? Is there a problem with your cultivation?" This person was the Sagely Heaven's old ancestor's son, Yen Jiuzi's father. His name was Elder Yen Mo. An old voice came from the palace, filled with endless anger. Jiu Er's soul jade tablet was broken. He died. Investigate this for me. I don't care who did it. I want to destroy their soul and heart. I will not let anyone related to him go. What? Hearing this, Elder Yenemo was instantly stunned. His son was killed. How could this be? His eyes instantly turned red. The surrounding people also knelt on the ground. Old ancestor, please calm down. We will go investigate. Follow me. With a roar, Elder Yenemo rushed out with his people. In the next moment, everyone in the Thousand Mountain Grotto knew about this, and the people of the Thousand Mountain Grotto gathered into countless groups and charged towards Mount Han. In Mount Han, at this moment, the two grotto heavens and the ancient race had all left. The only ones left were the people of Thousand Mountain Grotto. At this moment, these people were extremely anxious. Several days had already passed, and the power of Mount Han had become incomparably cold. Those people should have come out long ago. Why was Yanjiao and Xueqi still nowhere to be seen? Could it be that they had all died? That is impossible. The Heavenly Strategy Elder shook his head. These two both have the Sage King Wu on them. Even if he couldn't defeat a Saint King, he was more than capable of protecting himself. It was impossible for him to have died in there. The others were also puzzled. At this moment, they suddenly looked up at the sky. Countless figures appeared in the sky like gods and demons. Their powerful auras caused the snowy mountains below to crumble. What a terrifying team of saints. Is someone going to attack this place? The people of Thousand Mountain Grotto Heaven went crazy. They felt as if they were facing a great enemy. A moment later, they sensed that these people were from the Thousand Mountain Grotto, which caused them to be even more confused. What's going on? Why are there so many people? Tiansu and the others took the lead and flew up. They discovered that the one leading the team was the Yenemo. He hurriedly cupped his fists and asked, "What happened? You still have the face to ask me?" Elder Yenemo shouted angrily. The aura on his body was extremely terrifying as he charged forward. The Heavenly Strategy Elder's pupils constricted as he shot out a ray of light to block the attack. In the next moment he was forced back. The people around him also vomited blood. What's going on? Is this guy crazy? The Heavenly Strategy Elder was also furious. Yenemo, don't think that you can do whatever you want just because your father is the Supreme Elder. I'm also an elder of the Thousand Mountain Grotto. What right do you have to attack me? The other Saint Kings were also puzzled. That's right, Elder Yenemo. Is there a misunderstanding? We've never offended you. Yenmo's eyes were red. You've never offended me? My son, Yanjiao, has died in there. How did you protect him? If you can't find the enemy, you'll all die. What? The Earth Saint King and the others were stunned. The Heavenly Strategy Elder's pupils also constricted. Cold sweat immediately flowed down his face. Although he was furious earlier, if Yanjiao had really died, the situation was not good. Yenemo was not the only one who was furious. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor was furious too. That was the great sage. How were they going to explain themselves when they returned? That was impossible. Yanjiao had the Holy Heaven's woo-woo. Moreover, he had the rune mark left behind by the Holy Heaven's old ancestor. No matter how powerful the enemy was, he should have been able to survive. The other Saint Kings were also puzzled. Who was so powerful that they dared to kill Yanjiao? The Heavenly Strategy Elder also walked up and said, Yenemo, we don't know what's going on either. When we were in there, we suddenly realized that the land of Mount Han had become terrifying. It was as if everything was going to be frozen again. When we came out, we realized that Yanjiao and Princess Xueqi were not there, so we waited here. We thought that the two of them were delayed by something. We didn't expect Yanjiao to have died. The surrounding people were also stunned. Princess Xueqi was not there either? Oh my god, if Yanjiao had died in there, the other old ancestor would have to show his power. How would the Thousand Mountain Grotto shake then? They did not dare to imagine. Yenemo said, I don't care what excuses you have. You'll be punished when you return. Now everyone, follow me and enter Mount Han. He roared, and the team of saints behind him flew. They formed a terrifying formation, and charged in with great force. At the same time, a team stayed behind to watch over the Heavenly Strategy Elder and the others. What should we do? The Earth Saint King asked. The Heavenly Strategy Elder's face turned ugly. What could he do? He could only wait. He had to admit that the team led by Yen Mo this time was too powerful. Even though Mount Han had become so terrifying, they still charged in. However, at this moment, it was already snowing inside. They could not search at all. Moreover, they did not know where Yanjiu had died. They could only search aimlessly. Just like that, another 5 days passed. Yen Mo and the others still had not returned. Outside, the Heavenly Strategy Elder and the others' faces turned even uglier. These days, they carefully recalled the whole incident and realized that their situation was very bad. Yanjiu had died. As the elders who led the team, it would be difficult for them to escape. The team guarding them was led by an elder. They said, "Tiansu, you're really wrong this time. Don't you know Yanjiu and Xueqi's identities? You didn't follow them. Let's see how you're going to explain it when you return. This time, Yanjiu has died. I'm sure you'll be punished severely. Moreover, Princess Xueqi has not returned yet. If she dies, you'll have to face your own death." The Heavenly Strategy Elder's face was extremely gloomy. The Great Emperor, Holy King, and the others' faces were also extremely ugly. Chapter 4465. As night fell, the wind and snow continued to fall. The power of Mount Han was extremely terrifying. Even the moon could not be seen in the sky. It was extremely dark all around. At this moment, Elder Tiansu seemed to have made a decision. He roared and suddenly attacked. He attacked the elder of the team and sent him flying. Then he roared, "Why are you still not attacking? Are you waiting to die?" The Earth Saint King and the others were stunned at first. Then they said, "Let's attack. We will die if we go back." Now was the best time to escape. When the 1,000 Mountain Cave came, there were 7 Saint Kings. Other than Elder Jin Feng, who had died, there were 6 left. At this moment, the 6 of them attacked together, and were extremely powerful. "Damn it, how dare you attack? Do you want to betray the 1,000 Mountain Cave?" The elder of the team roared crazily. Elder Tiansu and the others said, "Sorry, we don't want to die. We don't want to go back and suffer. Let us go and we won't kill you." After that, their attacks became even more terrifying. A long sword appeared in Elder Tiansu's hand. It was tens of thousands of miles long. With a slash of the sword, the mountains and rivers were all shattered. The Earth Saint King roared angrily. Thousands of miles of land collapsed, forming countless rock giants. They charged out crazily. The 6 of them attacked crazily without holding back. However, in the end, 2 of them were caught. Elder Tiansu, and the other 3 escaped. "Damn it!" the leading elder roared. At the same time, he took out the array and transmitted his voice. In Mount Han, Yen Mo received the news of the array, and was instantly furious. How dare they escape? Men, catch them. He sent out 2 more teams to kill their way out of Mount Han to pursue the Heavenly Strategies Elder and the others. As for him, he continued to lead people to search Mount Han. In the Great Snow Mountain, in an ancient cave residence, Lin Xian opened his eyes. In the next moment, when he saw the scene in front of him, he was stunned. At this moment, Xueqi also opened her eyes. She seemed to have had a very long dream. In the dream, she was enveloped by the sun and ice. However, when she opened her eyes and saw the scene in front of her, she was also stunned. In the next moment, she was stunned and her face instantly turned red. Lin Xian stood up and said, "I'll go out first." After saying that, he walked out of the cave and let out a long breath. What do you think? Did he succeed? At this moment, a weak voice sounded. Lin Xian turned his head and saw that it was the soul. He wanted to get angry, but he found that the soul had become extremely weak. It looked like it would dissipate at any moment. He sighed. He should have succeeded, right? Let her come out, and let me take a look. My soul is incomparably excited. Her greatest wish was for the succession of the Nining tribe to be passed down. After a short while, Xueqi came out. Her face was still flushed. When she saw the soul, she was also stunned. The soul asked, "Did he really obtain the inheritance?" Xueqi nodded and thanked him. "Good. The heavens have not forsaken me. I must continue to bring the Nining inheritance to greater heights." That soul grew darker and darker until it finally dissipated. Xueqi knelt down and kowtowed 3 times respectfully. Senior, please don't worry. I won't let down the 9 tribe's inheritance. Lin Xian also bowed deeply. Because of what the soul had done, the information about the 9 tribe's inheritance had appeared in his mind. This meant that as long as he wanted to, he could also cultivate the 9 tribe's inheritance. Of course, it was too dangerous to fuse the 9 tribe's inheritance with the 9 Yang tribe's inheritance. You. Xueqi stood up and looked at Lin Xian. She didn't know what to say. Lin Xian took a deep breath and said, I don't know how much time has passed, but I think we should quickly leave. Are you going to leave? Xueqi asked. Her eyes were filled with disappointment. This guy has already done such a thing. Shouldn't he say something? Lin Xian said, I don't plan to leave for the time being. I want to continue staying in the 1,000 Mountain Paradise. Xueqi raised her head and hope appeared in her eyes. However, she quickly asked, Aren't you afraid that I will reveal your secret? I saw what you did previously. I don't think you will. Lin Xian revealed a smile. Xueqi's face became even redder. She really wouldn't reveal it, as she was now his woman. However, this damned fellow, why didn't he mention this matter at all? Let's go. Lin Xian waved his hand and said, Let's go. Xueqi nodded and revealed a gentle look. If other people were here, they would surely be startled. Is this still the same Ice Mountain Fairy? The two of them left the snowy mountain. Xueqi had already comprehended the 9 tribe's inheritance, and she shot out a black frost, which caused a crack to appear on the snowy mountain. The two of them then left. After they left, Lin Xian furrowed his brows. He discovered that the whole Mount Han had become even more terrifying than before. He must quickly leave. He guessed that this was related to Xueqi obtaining the 9 tribe's inheritance. The whole Mount Han would probably be sealed in ice. After they had walked for 2 days, they suddenly discovered some people in front of them. The two of them became alert, but Xueqi was taken aback. She said that it was the Paradise's people. She took out her badge and released the 1,000 Mountains phantom image. The people in front of them cried out in alarm. That's our 1,000 Mountains Paradise's badge. A group of people instantly flew over. They were led by 3 Saint Kings. When they saw Xueqi and Lin Xian, they heaved a sigh of relief. Princess Xueqi, it's great that nothing happened to you. Xueqi regained her ice-cold appearance. She nodded and asked, What happened? Why did you all come here? These people weren't among the Saint Kings that came here. Lin Xian didn't say anything. After all, he still didn't want to reveal his identity. The 3 Saint Kings said, Don't you know? 9th young Master Yin died, and the Holy Heaven's old ancestor showed his might. Elder Yin Mo brought countless teams of saints to search for him. Upon hearing this, Xueqi's pupils contracted. Did they already know? Could it be that the matter was about to be discovered? However, at this moment, Lin Xian shook his head and asked her to calm down. When he attacked Yin Mo, only Xueqi knew about it. The others didn't know about it. As for the Great Sage's seal, it was destroyed by him before it could even appear. They surely didn't know about it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been searching for him so aimlessly. Yin Jie was unexpectedly killed. Who killed him? Xueqi also calmed down. She said, I also don't know. I was also trapped for the past few days, and it took me great effort to get out. Let's go. Yes. The 3 great sage kings led their teams and protected Xueqi. They quickly left with Xueqi and Lin Xian. When they came out, they heaved a sigh of relief. They discovered that there were still 2 teams here. Where are the others? Did they all go back? Xueqi asked. The Heavenly Strategy's elder and his companions have already escaped. They even injured our 1,000 Mountains Paradise's people. We have already sent people to chase after them. How did this happen? Xueqi was taken aback, but she quickly understood. Now that Yin Jie was dead, the elders who led the team would definitely be severely punished. Chapter 4466. After this, Xueqi and Lin Xian rested here. During this time, Xueqi transmitted her voice to him. Do you really not want to leave? If you leave now, I will create an opportunity for you. You should quickly leave. Xueqi was quite worried. After all, his grandfather was the great sage. Lin Xian shook his head and transmitted his voice to her. I won't leave for now. This is because I still have some unfinished business. I still have people to kill. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. Xueqi fell silent. Since he had been suppressed and turned into a battle servant, his friends must have suffered the same fate. It seemed like Lin Xian would surely attack the heavenly abode. If she had learned of such a person in the past, she would have immediately suppressed or killed him. However, Xueqi wouldn't attack him now. After all, she was already his subordinate. She was quite conflicted, and she didn't know what she should do. After waiting for 2 days, Xueqi said, Elder Yan Mo still hasn't come back. I want to go back first. I am quite tired, and we have already escorted you back. After a short while, 2 teams escorted them back to the 1,000 Mountain Paradise. On the way back, they ran into some other teams, which were sent by the Black Ice Ancestor. The Black Ice Ancestor was Xueqi's grandfather, and he was also a supreme elder. He was the great sage. After he learned about Yan Jiu, he was worried that Xueqi would be in danger. When they saw that Xueqi was fine, they heaved a sigh of relief. After this, they returned to the 1,000 Mountain Paradise and started their secluded cultivation. This time, Xueqi's harvest was the greatest. She had obtained the 9 yin inheritance, which was a peerless inheritance. As long as she didn't die, she would surely become one of the few peerless experts in the starry sky. Lin Xian had also obtained great harvests. He had obtained several hundred spirit herbs in the snowy mountain. At the same time, his great dragon sword souls might had increased. More importantly, he had also obtained the 9 yin inheritance. Therefore, while he was in seclusion, Lin Xian had been exploring and researching whether he should cultivate the 9 yin legacy. He had discovered that the 9 yin inheritance and the 9 yang divine body were 2 completely different types of cultivation. The 9 yang body required an endless amount of flames, while the 9 yin inheritance required an endless amount of ice. Lin Xian had also cultivated the law of death and the law of sun, 2 completely opposite laws. However, 2 types of divine bodies were much more terrifying than 2 types of laws. The slightest carelessness might cause one to suffer from cultivation deviation. He shook his head and decided not to cultivate for the time being. After all, the 9 yang divine body was a terrifying physique to begin with. As long as it was cultivated to the great perfection stage, it would be comparable to a great emperor. Lin Xian was still doing his best to improve his 9 yang divine body. On the other side, Xueqi had completely consolidated her 9 yin body. The following cultivation would be more complicated and tedious. It was not something that could be completed overnight, so she did not need to be anxious. On one hand, she sent people to search for countless precious pieces of ice. At the same time, she also walked out of the palace and looked at the pagoda in the distance with sparkling eyes. What was this guy doing? Naturally, she was thinking about Lin Xian. Previously, Xueqi felt as if she was dreaming, and her soul was not clear. However, she knew that the sun that she had felt in her dream was Lin Xian. Therefore, she could guess what was going to happen next. She had been unable to complete the 9 yin inheritance, but Lin Xian had helped her. Moreover, it was Lin Xian who had helped her detoxify the poison that she had been poisoned with. As the granddaughter of a supreme elder and a top genius of the paradise, Xueqi had always wondered what her husband would be like. He would definitely be a peerless expert, a supreme existence that could sweep away everything. She had not even seen the geniuses of the paradise. In her opinion, someone who was worthy of her would at least be a peerless genius of the Misty Peak. However, Lin Xian's appearance changed her mind. When Lin Xian had appeared, he had displayed powerful formations. Although his identity was that of a battle servant, his attainments in formations were something that even she was greatly astonished by. Later on, Lin Xian had stopped the Holy King to help her. He had even taken the risk to let her escape. Xueqi was very touched. In the end, he had helped her detoxify the poison and obtain the 9 yin body. He had completely won her heart. In this life, she had already decided that Lin Xian would be her husband. She would never think of a second person. However, she sighed. She also knew that with her status, her father and grandfather would definitely not agree if she were to tell anyone about this matter. Moreover, Lin Xian would most likely attack the Grotto Heaven as well. With his talent, he would grow very quickly as long as he was given time. Once he grew, would he start a war with her? She had no idea. On the other side, Elder Yenemo had also returned. Because the land of Mount Han had been completely frozen, they had not found the place where Yenjio had died. In fact, they did not even get any information. Especially when Yenemo learned that Xueqi had returned safely, his expression became even more unsightly. Was his son the only one who had perished in there? How hateful. In the end, he met two people. He felt that they were very suspicious, but he did not dare to say anything. Because these two people were from the Misty Peak. The two geniuses of the Misty Peak left directly. No one dared to stop them. As for Yenemo, he brought his people back to the Thousand Mountain Paradise. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor came out to inquire, but he did not find anything. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor was furious. He personally went to Mount Han and killed his way in. In the end, he returned 3 days later. His expression became even colder. The people around him did not dare to say anything. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor returned without finding anything. Mount Han was much more terrifying than they had imagined. Xueqi naturally knew that the Holy Heaven's old ancestor was powerful. But Mount Han had the 9-yin inheritance. Although she had obtained the 9-yin inheritance, once the remaining aura burst out, the great sage would not be able to withstand it. She was afraid that no one would be able to enter there. As expected, the Holy Heaven's old ancestor's expression turned ugly. Yenemo walked in. Temperature, father, what should we do? We have no clue at all. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor's face was gloomy. When Jiu used the soul imprint I gave him, but it was instantly pierced through. I felt it. It seemed to have a trace of the light of reincarnation. What? The light of reincarnation? Yenemo was stunned. His expression became one of horror. Their grotto heavens were not qualified to possess the light of reincarnation. Only the ethereal peak could do so. Could it be that the people of the Misty Peak had done it? Damn it. In the end, we met two people from the Misty Peak. However, we did not dare to make a move. If we had known, we would have taken them down. Nonsense. Don't you know what kind of existence the Misty Peak is? Don't act rashly. Ask your brother to go and investigate. Chapter 4467. The ethereal peak was above their grotto heavens. However, many of their grotto heavens were also in the ethereal peak. For example, there were a few from the Holy Heaven's old ancestors' line in the ethereal peak. In fact, it wasn't just him. There were also people from Xueqi's line in the ethereal peak. It was the same for the other grotto heavens. It could be said that the relationship between the grotto heavens and the ethereal peak was very close. There were also people from the Holy King Xingchen's line in the ethereal peak. This was probably something that even Lin Xian didn't know. The ethereal peak. It was surrounded by mountains and empty valleys. The mountains were very steep. There was a mountain at the top of the clouds with a mysterious aura. This was the ethereal peak, a terrifying existence that was above the grotto heavens. In fact, in the hearts of countless grotto heavens, this was the real cultivation paradise. However, the ethereal peak was very strict in recruiting disciples. Most of the grotto heavens were peerless geniuses who entered through the assessment or recommendation. Only a few geniuses from the outside world entered directly. In the night sky, two figures flew past in an instant. They flew directly towards the ethereal peak. The two figures were riding on a huge gourd. They were as fast as lightning. In the blink of an eye, they shuttled through the void and arrived in front of the ethereal peak. There were clouds in front of them, and an array formation appeared. At the same time, there was a loud shout. Who are you? How dare you trespass on the ethereal peak? The voice carried the aura of a holy king. The two figures stopped and said, It's us. The man took out the spirit tablet of the ethereal peak and waved it in front of him. A ray of light streaked across the token and poured into the array formation. Not long after, the array formation split open and people walked out. It turned out to be young Master Xingchen and Princess Yuehua. Please. Xingchen nodded and the two of them flew in. Young Master Xingchen, how was your trip to Mount Han? A holy king smiled. After hearing that, Xingchen said, Not bad. To be honest, this trip wasn't in vain. The corner of his mouth curled up into a smile. After the two of them flew far away, Yuehua asked, "Senior brother, why are you so happy? We didn't seem to have obtained anything special." "In my opinion, this Mount Han is just SOSO. It's not as good as the legends say." Stardust's eyes flickered. He was tall and handsome, and his eyes were like the brightest stars in the night sky. He asked, "What do you think of Xueqi? Are you talking about that ice mountain fairy? I've heard of her. It was said that she was an ice elemental saint and had great attainments in formations. Although she was still a disciple of the Grotto Heaven and had yet to join the ethereal peak, she was still a disciple of the Grotto Heaven. However, she was already a half-step Saint King, and with the strength of the Xianbing clan, it was only a matter of time before she joined Misty Peak." "Senior brother, are you interested in him?" "That's right." Stardust's eyes flashed with a bright light. When he returned, he would immediately ask the old ancestor to help him propose a marriage. Yuehua was stunned. "Do you want to propose marriage to Xueqi?" "To be honest, although she is not bad, there are too many people in our ethereal peak who are more outstanding than her. Junior sister, you don't know, but I like this kind of iceberg." Stardust laughed. "All right, you can go back first. I'll go and see the ancestor." Then he turned into a beam of light and disappeared. Yuehua shook her head slightly. It seemed that another sparrow was about to become a phoenix. Presbytery Pavilion. It was very quiet, and there were countless paths around. This was where the old ancestor of the Presbytery Pavilion was. No one dared to be presumptuous here. At that moment, a figure was flying through the sky. It was Yen Mo. After Yen Mo entered the hall, he said, "Father, I found them." Those two people were disciples of Misty Peak. The man was called Xingqian, and the woman was called Yuehua. They were the geniuses of the Star Clan and the Moon Clan. In front of them, the old ancestor of the Presbytery Pavilion opened his eyes. A terrifying chi bloomed in his eyes. Then did the two of them fight? Yen Mo took a deep breath. It was impossible. Although those two were geniuses in Misty Peak, they were too weak. However, they didn't seem to be able to control the light of reincarnation. Who was it? The old ancestor's eyes shone with a terrifying light. Did anyone from Misty Peak go in? He didn't know. He was still investigating. "Go find out who killed Jiao. Even if it was someone from Misty Peak, he had to give me an explanation." Next, there was an undercurrent. However, Lin Xian didn't care about any of this. He was in seclusion, cultivating with all his might. In front of him, the great void divine furnace was surrounded by flames. It was like a fire dragon, flickering continuously. 9 Sun Divine Flame. Lin Xian had obtained many precious spiritual herbs in the Great Snow Mountain. He was refining them now. When this batch of spiritual herbs was completed, he could try to break through to the late-stage Holy Venerate realm. At that time, his strength would become even more terrifying. Finally, half a month later, a batch of spiritual herbs was completed. Looking at the spiritual herbs, Lin Xian's lips curled up into a smile. Every spiritual herb was crystal clear, and there were great daos flickering on them. Lin Xian waved his hand and started to consume the spiritual herbs. Boom! Soon thunder filled the sky. It was like the end of the world. Once again, it attracted the attention of the Thousand Mountain Paradise. Could it be that Xueqi is going to break through again? Countless people became nervous. Xueqi's father also arrived, and his eyes flickered. However, they didn't know that this was Lin Xian's breakthrough. The lightning tribulation filled the sky, and no one dared to approach this place. This time, the lightning tribulation lasted for a very long time. Lightning flashed and thunder roared in the sky. Countless martial emperors were hacked apart. This scene was horrifying. It was like 10,000 dragons were roaring together. A figure covered in flames stood in the sea of lightning in the sky. Countless lightning bolts flickered on his body. Some were even as big as a mountain. This was Lin Xian. He used his powerful divine body. Countless sword chi turned into divine chains and fought with the lightning tribulation. Finally, Shaochen blocked the lightning tribulation. Then he sat down cross-legged on the charred ground and started the final tempering. His aura suddenly burst out, and he reached the late-stage Holy Venerate realm. His strength had undergone an earth-shaking change compared to before. This is great. Lin Xian's lips curled up in a smile. The people outside were also looking forward to it. Is it over? They wondered. Did Princess Xueqi successfully break through and become a Saint King? They all wanted to go. At this moment, the lightning tribulation, which had already disappeared, gathered once again. Then, an even more terrifying power descended. Even Lin Xian abruptly opened his eyes. A look of surprise appeared on his face as he looked at the large hall before him. A Saint King tribulation. Is she going to break through? Lin Xian cried out in surprise. The palace in front of him was where Xueqi was. It seemed like Xueqi was really going to break through to the Saint King realm. Xueqi's father and the other Saint Kings outside wanted to come in and check the situation. However, when they sensed the Saint King tribulation, they were all surprised. Chapter 4468. Retreat quickly. These people retreated one after another. Even those who were in the mansion quickly retreated. Lin Xian's body flickered, and he arrived in the distant void. His eyes flickered as he observed the situation. Lightning struck down in front of him, and it penetrated the heavens and the earth. The palace beneath it was torn apart, and it was turned into ashes. A person was sitting cross-legged in the void, and there was black ice revolving around her body. Soon after, Xueqi opened her eyes, and her black hair fluttered in the wind. The black ice around her body swept out in all directions. The lightning that approached her was instantly sealed by ice. Boom, boom, boom. Xueqi used her Nining body, and ice filled the sky as she fought against the terrifying Sage Tribulation. This battle shook the heavens and the earth. And in the end, Xueqi successfully crossed the Sage Tribulation. She looked up at the sky and let out a long cry, and the clouds in the 9 heavens and 10 lands crumbled. The aura of a Sage King emanated from her body. Boom. It's great. She successfully made a breakthrough. A smile appeared at the corners of Xueqi's mouth. The injuries that she had suffered from the lightning tribulation, as well as the cracks, quickly healed. Cheer, how are you? After the lightning tribulation disappeared, a voice transmitted from a distant place. At the same time, countless auras in the sky spread toward them, and there was even an aura that belonged to the great sage. It was the Supreme Elder. Many people cried out in alarm. Greetings, Elder Xianbing. They looked at the blue-robed old man and bowed to him. The blue-robed old man's robe fluttered even though there was no wind, and his eyes were like blue lightning that could see through everything. He stared at Xueqi, then clapped his hands and laughed heartily. She made a breakthrough. Great, great, great. He was overjoyed, as his granddaughter had finally taken a crucial step. Is this true? She actually made a breakthrough. It's great. Xueqi's father was also overjoyed, and he clenched his fists. The others also congratulated Black Ice Ancestor one after another. Black Ice Ancestor, congratulations. Princess Xueqi's talent was too great. She was the first person among the younger generation to become a Sage King. Her future achievements were limitless, and she would surely become the great sage. Flattering voices rang out one after another. Black Ice Ancestor also laughed. Xueqi's breakthrough was a big matter for the Thousand Mountain Grotto, so they sent out invitations and invited everyone to a banquet. Soon these people began to move. On the other side, Yan Emma walked over and gnashed his teeth. Father, Xueqi has already broken through to the Saint King realm. Damn it! The others were all very happy, but their expressions were incomparably ugly, because his son Yin Jiao had already fallen. In all honesty, he hoped that Xueqi would die. However, things didn't go as he wished. Not only did Xueqi not die, but she had also become even more powerful. She had even broken through to become a Saint King. Moreover, he wants to invite the world to a banquet. I think he wants to show off to the world. The more she spoke, the angrier she became. Said the ancestor of the holy heavens. She had just become a Saint King, so she didn't pose any threat to him. As long as the black ice old monster does not break through, we will still be evenly matched. Yan Emo nodded. He naturally knew. The younger generation represented the hope of the future. More importantly, the two great sage were competing. Although they were both from the Thousand Mountain Grotto, they represented different factions. There were 3 great sage in the Thousand Mountain Grotto. One of them was in a deep sleep. The only active ones were his father, the great sage of the holy heavens, and the great sage of the black ice ancestor. The two of them represented two factions, so they were naturally competing with each other. Previously, Yanjiu had pursued Xueqi. If he had succeeded, then they might have been able to work together. But now there was no such possibility. Xueqi received countless congratulatory messages, but she still wore an indifferent expression. Many of the younger generation's geniuses had come. Many of them were handsome, and some of them were carefree. However, Xueqi didn't care about them at all. She looked around, as if she was looking for someone. When she saw Lin Xian walk out of the clouds, a smile appeared on her face. Her smile was so beautiful that it could cause the downfall of a country, and everyone was stunned when they saw it. When the other people saw it, they all glared at Lin Xian and gnashed their teeth. Xueqi had said that she wanted to consolidate her cultivation since she had just made a breakthrough. All right, Xueqi, you should take a rest first. We will congratulate you when the banquet starts. The elders took their juniors and left. Xueqi gathered her subordinates and said, "Build a new mansion for me. I will go to another place to live temporarily." She left with Lin Xian. The news that Xueqi had made a breakthrough and became a great sage spread out from the Thousand Mountain Grotto. The other grotto heavens and ancient races people were all shocked when they heard about it. They all received invitations, and they all set off. The Misty Peaks people also knew about it, and they also sent a team to go there. The day of the banquet quickly arrived. The Thousand Mountain Grotto became very lively, and the young disciples all had smiles on their faces. Xueqi was the main character of this banquet, and what they needed to do was to attract her attention. They had already heard from their elders that Yanjiu had died. Therefore, they could go and chase after Xueqi. Previously, because of Yanjiu's existence, many people wanted to get Xueqi's attention. However, they did not dare to. But now he didn't have to worry about that anymore. If he could get married to Xueqi, he wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. If they could marry Xueqi, their families and their own families would all soar. The Green Hill Grotto had arrived. A loud voice came from outside, and then a team was invited in. It was the people from the Green Hill Grotto. Countless people turned their heads to look, and they all cried out in surprise. The people from the Green Hill Grotto were all handsome, and they were like fairies. Many people cried out in surprise when they saw them. Many people's eyes turned red. They could not get Princess Xueqi, but it would be good if they could marry a fairy from the Green Hill Grotto. Next, the people from the Howren Grotto, the White Cloud Grotto, and the Flying Feather Grotto arrived. The last to arrive was the people from the Purple Spirit Grotto. Many people were surprised that young Master Ling Tian had come as well. Many people whispered, "Didn't this guy say that he was severely injured and poisoned? How did he recover?" His grandfather was the Supreme Elder, the Great Sage. He must have personally helped him to expel the poison and heal his injuries. In the Purple Spirit Grotto, his face was cold, and there was a hint of coldness in his eyes. To be honest, he was very angry. He was beaten up by a mysterious person for no reason, and he was severely injured. He was even poisoned. Indeed, it was the Great Sage who saved him. However, this also caused his cultivation and strength to fall. After all, he had injured his foundation and soul. Now he had fallen to the peak of the Saint Venerable realm, and he was no longer a half-step Saint King. This made him gnash his teeth. Chapter 4469. He was supposed to be the first to break through. But now, the glory had fallen to someone else. But fortunately it was Xueqi. If he could marry Xueqi, everything would be perfect. Apart from the people from the 5 Grotto Heavens, there were also dozens of ancient race and other experts. It could be said that the Thousand Mountain Grotto was extremely lively. The elders and geniuses of the Thousand Mountain Grotto were also coming in and out to receive the guests. At this moment, a voice came from the foot of the mountain, welcoming the ethereal peak. As soon as the voice came out, the people in the grotto fell silent. Countless people turned their heads to look. Even the ethereal peak was here? This was unbelievable. The Thousand Mountain Grotto was actually so influential. The elders and experts of the other grotto heavens were also shocked. The people of the Thousand Mountain Grotto smiled. Great. They did not expect the people of the ethereal peak to come. Go quickly. Some of the core elders also moved, one after another, and went to welcome them. The ethereal peak was in existence above them. No one dared to be careless. The people of the other grotto heavens were also extremely respectful and pious. From afar, a white jade divine bridge appeared, connecting the heavens and the earth. There were countless daos intertwined on it. There were a few figures on the divine bridge. The one in front was a middle-aged man. He was tall and wore armor that shone with cold light. His aura was extremely shocking. It was him. Dugu? Many elders of the grotto heavens narrowed their eyes. They did not expect such a person to come here. Some of the young people did not know who this person was. They only knew that his aura was extremely terrifying. They asked, "Elder, is this person powerful?" The elders said, "How dare you be so rude to Elder Dugu?" Saint King Dugu was a late-stage Saint King. He was also an elder of the ethereal peak, and had an extraordinary status. He was not someone you could talk about. Did you hear that? The disciples were so scared that their scalps went numb. The elders of the ethereal peak were extremely terrifying. At the same time, they were even more confused. Would such a person come for the Thousand Mountain Grotto? Could it be that something big was about to happen? Even the elders of the Thousand Mountain Grotto were stunned. They had thought that they would send some young disciples. But now such a powerful elder had come personally. For a moment, they were all stunned. The expression of Xueqi's father, Elder Xianhai, changed drastically. Since such an important person had come, he must inform the Supreme Elder as soon as possible. He secretly transmitted his voice. However, as soon as he moved, two powerful auras surged over from afar. "Greetings, Patriarch." The people of Thousand Mountain Grotto Heaven kept worshipping. The people from the other grotto heavens bowed as well, paying their respects to the two great sage. Countless people looked up at him. Was this the great sage? It was really too terrifying. It was the Holy Heavens ancestor and the Black Ice ancestor. The two of them looked ahead when they arrived. They landed on a cloud and smiled. They didn't expect fellow Taoist Dugu of Ethereal Peak to come personally. How disrespectful. The two seniors are too polite. Dugu Ju said indifferently as he cupped his fists. Fellow Taoist Dugu, please. The two grand elders will personally lead the way. The surrounding people were all stunned. Although Dugujua was powerful, he was only a late-stage Saint King. Yet the two great sage actually treated him so courteously. In fact, they even treated him as equals. It was really too incredible. However, this showed how extraordinary Ethereal Peak was. It was probably above the grotto heavens. Seniors, please. Duguju didn't dare to be careless. After all, they were two living fossils, two great sage. The three of them walked forward together. The surrounding people stepped back and made a path for them. There were also a few people following behind Duguju. Xingchen and Yuehua were among them. The group was invited to the most honorable place and sat down. After that, the two utmost exalted elders also sat down. Everyone was seated. The others also sat down. At this moment, a crane flew in the distance, and two people stood on it. It was Fairy Xueqi. She was here. With a cry of surprise, countless people raised their heads and looked into the distance. The eyes of the young disciples lit up instantly. She was so beautiful, like a fairy from the 9 heavens. Xueqi had dressed up meticulously today. Her exquisite snow robe made her look even more noble, like the Ice Queen. As soon as she appeared, she attracted countless gazes and exclamations. The crane flew circling in the air, and then landed. Xueqi walked down, and Lin Xian also landed behind her. Lin Xian looked around curiously. This time, there were even more experts than the ones gathered at Mount Han. Moreover, he realized that all 6 grotto heavens were here. Especially when he sensed the 2 aged figures sitting at the very front, his pupils abruptly shrunk. It was the aura of the great sage. This was the real great sage. He took a deep breath. As expected of a grotto heaven, it was much more powerful than the holy city. It even had the great sage. And there was more than one. Who was this person? When he saw Duguju, he was also stunned. Duguju was only a late-stage holy venerate, but he could sit on the same level as the great sage. This surprised him. However, when he saw that Xingchen and Yuehua were seated beside Duguju, he understood what was going on. He had seen these two people before. They were from the Misty Peak. He guessed that the middle-aged man sitting at the front was also an expert from the Misty Peak. It seemed like the Misty Peak's status was really important. Xingchen's eyes shone brightly, and he instantly fixed his gaze on Xueqi. A smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. As expected of the person he had taken a fancy to, she was even more beautiful than he had imagined. However, when he saw Lin Xian, he furrowed his brows. Once he married Xueqi, this battle servant wouldn't need to exist anymore. Many people's gazes also fell on Lin Xian. There were even some geniuses who were envious of him. They all wished that they could become battle servants and stay by Xueqi's side. Let me introduce you. This is the Misty Peak's elder Dugu. He came here especially for this pageant. You should thank him properly. Xianhai stood up and looked at his daughter with a smile. Xueqi was also surprised. Did the Misty Peak's elder come here personally? Did he come here to take a disciple? Junior Xueqi greets Elder Dugu. You are too polite. My niece Xueqi has great talent. It seems like she will join the Misty Peak sooner or later. Xueqi also smiled as she thanked Elder Dugu for his praise. She had always wanted to join the Misty Peak. The other people also went into an uproar. They all wondered whether Duguju had really come here to take a disciple. These people were the outstanding geniuses of the Misty Peak. Xianhai pointed at Xingchen and the others. Chapter 4470. Xueqi also bowed slightly to greet everyone. Sister Xueqi, you are too courteous. We will be on the same side in the future, Yuehua said with a smile. After that, Xueqi met the elders of the other heavens and the experts of the ancient race. She sat down. The banquet started, and it was very lively. Many people came to congratulate Xueqi. Just the gifts that Lin Xian had received for her had already piled up into a mountain. During the banquet, there were also some fights. After all, everyone was an expert, and they liked watching fights. Some geniuses of the heavens and ancient race started fighting. The battle stopped there, but it was still very exciting and intense. All kinds of great daos appeared between heaven and earth. Interesting. Even I want to fight. I wonder who would like to exchange a few moves with me? At this moment, a figure stood up from the Misty Peak's side. It was a short-haired man. He wore blue armor and carried a saber on his back. His cultivation was only at the half-step Holy King realm, but he was able to join the Misty Peak. There was only one explanation. He was a descendant of one of the elders of the Misty Peak. Mo Fan walked out and looked at the people of the other heavens and ancient race. Why? Does no one dare to fight? The scene was silent for a while. Mo Fan sneered. Didn't you all think that you were geniuses? Why don't you even have the courage to fight with me? You are really disappointing. You want to join the Misty Peak? I'm afraid you don't have the chance. What an arrogant person. When the people of the 6 great heavens heard this, they frowned. Some of them had ugly expressions. It's not that we don't want to fight, but if we injure you, we will end up in a miserable state. These words were exactly what everyone was thinking. It wasn't that they couldn't defeat him, but that he was from the Misty Peak, and no one dared to fight him. When Mo Fan heard this, he smiled. It turns out that you are worried about this. I can tell you that you don't have to worry. Who can defeat me? Or even injure me? I will reward you handsomely. Even if I am injured, I won't blame you. Everyone can hear what I am saying. Do you still have anything to worry about? Since that's the case, I will challenge you. A figure stood up. It was Meng Hao of the Howren Heavens. After Meng Hao walked out, he said, "Excuse me." Unparalleled laws of nature burst out from his body. His palm formed a seal of nature and pushed forward. This was the ultimate technique of the vast grotto heaven. This Meng Hao was also a top genius, and his attacks were truly terrifying. Most likely, there was no one below Saint King who could do anything to him, right? Mo Fan let out a hollow laugh. The Howren Wonderland, huh? He pulled out the saber on his back. Purple flames rose from the saber, and with an unparalleled aura, it slashed toward Lin Fan. Purple Flame Devil Saber. The saber slashed down and collided with the Howren seal. Both of them emitted a deafening sound. This slash actually sent Meng Hao flying backward. This guy is so strong. He is indeed from the ethereal peak. The crowd realized that although Mo Fan was arrogant, his strength was not weak at all. Mo Fan let out a hollow laugh after he succeeded, and charged forward once again. The long saber in his hand continued to fall like lightning, enveloping the world. Meng Hao kept retreating, but he was not nervous at all. Suddenly, countless Howren seals appeared behind him. There were a total of 12 of them, and they covered the sky and covered the earth, directly enveloping his opponent. This was a kind of ultimate technique. It turned out that he was not really defeated before. He was just retreating in order to advance, looking for an opening. Finally, he found an opportunity. Boom, boom, boom. Under the mighty attack, Mo Fan was hit. He was sent flying, his face pale, and blood was flowing out from the corner of his mouth. There were even a few cracks on his body. He was injured. Countless people were shocked. Meng Hao walked out. You have lost this battle. Mo Fan's eyes instantly turned red. Damn it, you dare to hurt me? Go to hell. He roared angrily, and the long saber in his hand instantly burst out with an unparalleled light. A roar burst out from his saber, which then turned into a phantom and slashed forward. Boom. The power of this slash surpassed everything before. It even carried the aura of a Saint King. Not good, this is the weapon of a Saint King. It was sealed before. Countless cries of surprise rang out, and Meng Hao's pupils constricted. He once again used the Howren seal to block the attack. However, he was still a step too late. In an instant he was sent flying, and a crack appeared on his body. One of his arms was directly cut off. Meng Hao was injured. The people of the Howren sanctuary were nervous. The others were also shocked. The battle should be over. They did not expect Mo Fan to use the weapon of a Saint King. It was an unfair victory. Everyone sighed. To be honest, with Meng Hao's status, he could naturally take out a Saint King weapon. However, since it was a spar, they would not rely on external forces. However, to everyone's surprise, Mo Fan did not stop. His eyes were red. Since you dare to hurt me, die. The saber in his hand slashed down again. Damn it, is this guy crazy? Does he want to kill me? This was not a fight. He had said so nicely before that he did not care about being injured or losing, but now his opponent had hurt him a little. He actually wanted to kill his opponent. Meng Hao's face was also cold. To be honest, he was also angry. Did he think he did not have a Saint King weapon? His severed arm healed, and a terrifying aura erupted from his body. He was about to attack. However, at that moment, the elder of the Howren sanctuary stood up. All right, Meng Hao has lost this battle. Elder. Meng Hao was not convinced. However, the elder of the Howren sanctuary did say, Meng Hao, you are injured. You have lost this battle. Yes. I understand. Meng Hao walked back unwillingly. Mo Fan snorted coldly. Fortunately, I stopped when it came to a fight. Otherwise, you would be a dead man now. Who else wants to stand with me? The surrounding people did not say anything. This guy was simply a madman. He could not afford to be taken advantage of. Furthermore, his status was frighteningly high. No one dared to act rashly. Who would be willing to fight someone like this? What a bunch of trash, Mo Fan sneered. In front of him, Stardust frowned slightly. Mo Fan, come back. To be honest, he also felt that Mo Fan was a bit embarrassing. Fine, I'll spare them this time. Mo Fan walked back. For a moment, the atmosphere was a bit awkward. Duguju said with a smile. Today we came here not only to congratulate Xueqi, but also for another matter. Oh, another matter? What is it? The two great elders were confused. The others were also surprised. Duguju said with a smile. Xueqi's children should be of marriageable age. Duguju wondered if she had a good husband. When he said that, everyone was stunned. What did he mean? Chapter 4471. Duguju continued with a smile. This is Xingqian, a genius of our Misty Peak. He has reached the Saint King realm. Senior Black Ice, what do you think? Black Ice ancestor was also taken aback. What did Taoist Dugu mean? Duguju said. This time, I'm here to propose marriage. Propose marriage? Everyone was stunned when they heard this. The people from the Thousand Mountain Grotto were stunned. The people from the other grottos were also dumbfounded. It seemed like they were here to propose marriage for Xingqian. Oh my God! Despair filled their eyes. To be honest, Yanjiu's matter had given them hope. After all, they could pursue Xueqi. But now Misty Peak had proposed marriage. Who would dare to oppose it? Sure enough, those young geniuses were disappointed. Even the elders from Thousand Mountain Cave were stunned. Black Ice Ancestor was also stunned. She did not expect Deguju to come here to propose marriage. Xingqian is a genius of our Misty Peak, the Star Clan. If the marriage alliance is successful this time, then both of us can work together. Countless people were stunned. The eyes of those from the other caves turned red. To be honest, if they could work together with Misty Peak, it would be a great benefit for the caves. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor's face turned cold. Yenmo's face also turned ugly. This way Thousand Mountain Cave would benefit. However, the biggest beneficiary would be Black Ice Ancestor. Black Ice Ancestor would probably soar in the future. If that happened, their lineage would be at a complete disadvantage. Therefore, they were very anxious. Black Ice Ancestor was also stunned for a moment. To be honest, she did not know how to respond. But at this moment, Xueqi stood up and said, I'm not willing. What? Everyone was shocked. Xueqi was not willing. Don't be rude, Xianhai said with a frown. How could she refuse such an important event? But father, Xueqi still wanted to say something. Xianhai waved his hand and said, I said don't be rude. Sit down first. The Supreme Elder will make the decision. Although Xueqi refused, Deguju did not care. He looked at Black Ice Ancestor. He knew that the most important thing was to deal with Black Ice Ancestor. He waved his hand and looked at the stars. Chen, or what are you waiting for? Xingqian stood up and said with a smile, Senior Xianbing, if Xueqi and I can be together, I will definitely treat her well for the rest of my life. These were some greeting gifts. I hope that Senior and Xueqi won't dislike it. As he spoke, he waved his hand and 3 treasure boxes appeared in the sky. Was this a betrothal gift? Countless people exclaimed as they looked up at the sky. Xingqian waved his hand, and the first treasure box opened. Immediately, 9-colored light flew out and circled the world. A terrifying aura of the Great Path surged. The surrounding people were all stunned. Just the aura alone was so terrifying. How heaven-defying was this treasure? Then a fist-sized jade flew out. The jade was sparkling and translucent. It was exceptionally dreamy, as if it was the most precious treasure in the world. However, what was surprising was not this piece of jade, but what was sealed in the jade. It was a stalk of spirit medicine, and it could be seen that it was very old. Xingqian said proudly with his hands behind his back. This was a 30,000-year-old herb. The surrounding people were all in an uproar. 30,000-year-old. Heavens, isn't this a little too long ago? This was definitely enough to make anyone's eyes turn red. Sure enough, even the 2 Supreme Elders' eyes shone with a biting cold light. This was extremely useful to them. Not only could it increase their cultivation, but it could also increase their lifespan. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor's eyes turned red. Why didn't his junior have a peerless fairy like Xueqi? Damn it. This Black Ice old ancestor is going to benefit. Black Ice old ancestor was also very happy. However, as the great sage, he was very experienced and knowledgeable. Thus, he was extremely calm and didn't say anything. When Xingqian saw this scene, he waved his hand again. Immediately, the second treasure box opened. Boundless light flew out from it. It was also a piece of divine crystal, and there was a celestial pot sealed in it. The crowd was puzzled. Could it be a top-notch saint artifact? Xingqian said that there was half a bottle of spirit wine in the celestial pot. It should be the legendary Linglong Saint wine. The surrounding people went crazy. The Linglong Saint wine was a legendary existence. With just a sip, one could almost ascend to the immortal realm. It could definitely increase one's cultivation by a few hundred years. It could directly create a peerless expert. As expected of the Misty Peak, it was really too amazing. The things that they took out shocked everyone. At the same time, Everyone knew that it seemed that this marriage proposal was going to be successful. Presumably, the Thousand Mountain Cave would definitely not reject it. What was in the third treasure box? At this moment, countless people were looking forward to it. Xingchen waved his hand and opened the third treasure box. Moonlight appeared inside. Then a crescent moon flew out. It was the moon. Everyone was stunned. However, some of the older generation experts shook their heads. No, it just looked like the moon. It was a piece of metal. Some of you should have guessed that it was called the Serene Moon Gold. It was the material used to create the Great Sage artifact. I don't think I need to explain how precious it was, right? The surrounding people's eyes almost popped out. The Serene Moon Gold was crystal clear. It flowed with radiance like a divine moon. It was a peerless metal. Indeed, the two great sages' eyes also turned red. They were great sage, and they also had great sage artifacts. However, these great sage artifacts had been passed down from the heavenly cave since ancient times. They weren't personally created by them. It was too difficult for a great sage to create his own great sage artifact. This was because the materials needed were extremely precious. Many people couldn't even find all of them in their entire lives. Therefore, these great sage artifacts were all divine artifacts that had been passed down from ancient times. Now that such a piece of metal had appeared, the eyes of the two great sage artifacts became fiery red. If they could get it and create their own great sage artifacts, they would be satisfied for the rest of their lives. Each of the three treasures would be shocking if taken out. Now that they had appeared together, no one would be able to reject them. The corners of Black Ice Ancestor's mouth curled up as she looked at Xueqi. Xueqi's heart skipped a beat. She stood up and said once again, "I'm not willing." The surrounding people went crazy. He still wasn't willing? What was Xueqi thinking? The female disciples of the other heavenly caves snorted coldly. What was she being so arrogant about? Did she really think that she was a peerless fairy? Xingchen was so handsome, and he was also a martial artist of the Misty Peak. His status was above all the other heavenly caves. If they were in Xueqi's place, they would have agreed long ago. Moreover, she had even taken out 3 treasures, which showed her sincerity. The female disciples were so angry that they wished they could pounce on her and agree immediately. However, Xueqi had rejected them twice, which made them go crazy. Chapter 4472. The smile on Xingchen's face disappeared, and his expression became unsightly. She had already rejected him twice. Didn't he want to lose face? Even Duguju furrowed his brows slightly. His expression became gloomy, but he didn't say anything. Xianhai said hurriedly, "Elder Dugu, please calm down. My daughter is still young, and she is used to being spoiled. Elder Dugu, please don't take offense. I have already made up my mind." Xueqi stood out once again. At this moment, countless gazes fell on her. Xueqi looked around and said in a clear voice, "Elder Dugu, thank you for your kindness." However, Xueqi already has someone in her heart. After she spoke, she glanced at Lin Xian. Everyone was taken aback. Xueqi already has someone in her heart. Damn it! Who is it? I will fight him to the death. Even Xingchen's expression became unsightly. He had proposed a marriage in front of everyone, but Xueqi didn't agree. She even said that she already had someone in her heart. This was a slap to his face. Don't be rude. Xianhai shouted angrily. Even Black Ice Ancestor's expression changed. This was supposed to be a joyous occasion, but if it wasn't handled properly, it might turn into a disaster. Offending the Misty Peak would lead to a miserable end. The Holy Heaven's Ancestor and the others sneered inwardly. This scene was beyond their expectations. However, they were still very happy. Cheer is too young, and we will give you an explanation for this matter. Black Ice Ancestor also spoke. The situation had become very awkward, and they had to stop it quickly. Otherwise, the Misty Peak would become even angrier. She had just broken through recently, and she might be too tired. This was why she wasn't in a good mood. Guards, take Cheer away to rest. Xianhai waved his hand, and many guards walked out. It seemed like they wanted to take Xueqi away by force. Xueqi said, "Who dares to do this?" She took a step forward, but the guards continued to walk towards her. When Lin Xian saw this scene, he sighed. He knew that Xueqi didn't agree because of him. After all, Xueqi was already his woman. Now, Xueqi was going against the Thousand Mountain Abode and the Misty Peak for him. So, how could he just sit by and watch? Lin Xian walked out as well. With a stomp of his foot, endless nomological laws condensed under his feet and enveloped the guards. Countless laws formed divine chains, sealing them in the sky. Audacious! Do you dare to make a move? Xianhai roared. Lin Xian wasn't afraid at all. He laughed. For the sake of a few treasures, he was willing to push his own daughter into the fire pit. As a father, he wasn't much. What did you say? Xianhai was completely enraged. A mere battle servant dared to clamor with him? Kneel! He roared. However, Lin Xian stood there without moving. He said coldly, "What? Am I wrong? You are Xueqi's elders, yet you don't care about Xueqi at all. All you think about is the treasure and the relationship with the Misty Peak. Have you ever cared about Xueqi's feelings? Xueqi is still young, and she doesn't understand anything. We are doing this for her own good," Xianhai said coldly. Lin Xian laughed out loud. "Young? Don't understand? I see that you've lived for thousands of years, but you don't understand either. How presumptuous. Who gave you the guts to speak here?" Xianhai went crazy. The people in the surroundings went into an uproar. Who is this guy? Is he some genius? What a joke. Can't he see that he's just a battle servant? What? A battle servant dares to speak to an elder in such a manner? He'll probably suffer a fate worse than death. Xueqi turned around and looked at Lin Xian. She revealed a smile. She knew that she had made the right choice. In the next instant she said, "Father, grandfather, if you insist on marrying Xueqi, it's fine. But I have a condition." "What condition? Speak." Xianhai was delighted. As long as Xueqi agreed, they would fulfill any condition. Xueqi said, "My husband will surely be a peerless hero. Weaklings don't have such qualifications. You can set your mind at ease. Xingqian is also a Saint King, and he reached the Saint King realm 3 years ago." This showed that Xingqian's power was extremely great. However, Xueqi said, "Even among Saint Kings, there are strong ones and weak ones. My condition is that you must defeat me in order to become my husband. Moreover, since you think that I'm not young anymore, it's time for me to get married. All right, let's have a competition to find a spouse. I'll invite all the geniuses in the world to sign up. If anyone can defeat me, I'll marry him." Everyone went into an uproar when they heard this. A competition to find a spouse? Oh my God! Didn't this mean that they also had a chance? Some people were shocked. Duguju furrowed his brows and looked at Xingqian. Xingqian's face was gloomy, but a smile quickly appeared at the corners of his mouth. A competition to find a spouse? Interesting. Fine, I'll agree. Xueqi, I'll defeat you personally to prove my power. I'm the most suitable person to be your husband. Xianhai heaved a sigh of relief. Since even Xingqian had agreed, they didn't need to say anything. However, after this matter, they still had to apologize. Even Black Ice Ancestor sighed. It seemed like she had to make a trip to the Misty Peak personally. After all, they had really embarrassed the Misty Peak today. 10 days from now, I'll accept your challenge. I'll give you 10 days to prepare. After Xueqi finished speaking, she turned around and left. Countless people went into an uproar. They knew that a good show was about to begin. Moreover, the news had already spread. All the experts in the region rushed over. They also wanted to participate. The Thousand Mountain Cave was also busy. They were preparing to set up the ancient arena. They also had to entertain more people. On the other side, Black Ice Ancestor personally invited Duguju and the others to a quiet palace, where she received them personally. Xingqian was a little unhappy before, but now a smile appeared on his face. He wanted to conquer her personally. On the other side, after Xueqi went back, she looked at Lin Xian. She said, 10 days from now you'll participate, right? Since they had come back from Mount Han, the two of them had been cultivating in seclusion. They even tried to avoid what had happened. This made Xueqi very sad. Lin Xian looked at her and said, "Of course, you're already my woman. Your husband can only be me. I've already thought it through. The Thousand Mountain Cave is the Thousand Mountain Cave, and you are you. Moreover, I don't want to kill the entire Thousand Mountain Cave. I only want to kill a part of it. That's right. Lin Xian wanted to kill those who had participated in sealing them. He also wanted to kill the members of the world of men. After Xueqi heard this, she revealed a beautiful smile. Great, she had seen Lin Xian's strength, which was why she came up with the idea of this joust for a spouse. As long as Lin Xian displayed his power in front of everyone in 10 days, it wouldn't matter even if he was just a battle servant. When this news spread out, the whole world went into an uproar. More experts rushed over. Chapter 4473. After all, Xueqi was already a true Saint King. If they wanted to defeat her, they had to be a saint. Of course, there were also some people who wanted to join in the fun. After all, they were the center of attention at this time. If they could shine in the battle, even if they lost in the end, they would be famous all over the world. They all came to the Thousand Mountain Cave with different goals in mind. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, everyone was excited. The Thousand Mountain Cave even took out many arenas for the upcoming battles. The two great elders and Saint King Dugu had all come. They were sitting high in the clouds, looking down. The experts of the other heavenly caves and the ancient race all gathered around them. Xing Chun was wearing a battle armor today, and his eyes were emitting a biting cold aura. Today he was going to sweep across the world and defeat Xueqi personally. Then he would carry out the marriage alliance. The experts of the other heavenly caves were also excited. At this moment, Mo Fan walked out once again and said in a clear voice, "If you want to challenge Xueqi, you have to go through me first. If you can't even defeat me, you don't have the right to challenge a saint." He was right. Apart from Mo Fan, 3 more people arrived. They were all from the Misty Peak. These 3 people were all half-step Saint Kings. They stood in 3 arenas to carry out the elimination. It's so lively. It seems like I'm not too late. A loud laugh came from the sky. Then, a sword light flashed and formed a figure. Another expert came to challenge them. Everyone felt the pressure. No, this was not an ordinary Saint King. This was a late-stage Saint King. This was a terrifying expert. Many people exclaimed. They looked up at the sky, and so did the people of the Thousand Mountain Cave. The 2 great elders and Duguju were stunned. Their pupils shrank. It's him. The 3 of them stood up at the same time. Taoist Wuk, what a rare guest. I didn't expect you to come. Black Ice Ancestor was very surprised. His face was full of excitement. This was too much. This was his granddaughter's marriage alliance. Now, not only had Duguju come, but Wuk had also come. This made him feel proud. On the other side, the Holy Heaven Ancestor was also surprised. He didn't dare to be negligent. "Long time no see, tour guide Wuk," Duguju said. The 3 of them invited the peerless swordsman down from the sky. The surrounding people were shocked. Who was this person? He was so terrifying. His identity was also extraordinary. Could it be that he was also from the Ethereal Peak? The Misty Peak actually sent 2 elders? It was too unbelievable. However, there were also some who shook their heads. No, these people from Ethereal Peak looked confused. Clearly, they did not know this peerless swordsman. This person was not from Ethereal Peak. Who was that? In this place, other than the Misty Peak, who else could make the Grotto Heavens treat them with such respect? Or even be on equal footing with the Misty Peak? Everyone was puzzled. I wonder where Xueqi is. Jian Wuk asked with a smile after he came down. Xueqi, we're here. Not long after, the red-crowned crane flew over from afar. Xueqi and Lin Xian descended gracefully like celestial beings. Here it comes. Countless people's eyes lit up. Jian Wuk said with a smile. She was indeed a peerless genius. It seemed like Xueqi's future was limitless. Elder Wuk, it won't be long before my daughter marries Xing Chun of the Misty Peak. At that time, I hope that Senior Wuk can come. Oh. Jian Wuk was surprised. At this moment, Yanemo said coldly, Elder Xianhai, it's too early for you to be happy. What will be the final result of this martial arts contest? No one can say for sure. What? Do you think that young Master Xingqian won't be able to obtain the final victory? Xianhai glanced at him and revealed a meaningful smile. Previously, his son had pursued his daughter. Now that Yanjie was dead, he must be furious. However, even if Yanjie was still alive, how could she marry Xingqian? Yan Emo looked at Dugaju respectfully, and then looked at Xianhai. He said with a smile, I didn't say that young Master Xingqian would lose. It's just that I think everyone knows about Xueqi's temper. At that time, I hope that Xueqi will keep her word. Xianhai's face sank. I know my daughter. She won't go back on her word. Alright, stop fighting. Just watch the contest patiently. Elder Xianbing said in a deep voice. Soon everyone's gazes shifted downwards. The people below had already started. Mo Fan and the other strong cultivators of Misty Peak were in charge of the elimination. The battle was very fast. The three of them were very strong. Even if they were fighting against someone of the same level, they would finish the battle within 3 moves. Damn it. How could it be so coincidental? Everyone was in despair. Some who wanted to participate hesitated. They were all half-step Saint Kings. Why was there such a huge gap between them? Could it be that this was Misty Peak? The superpowers and ultimate techniques used by their opponents were far more powerful than theirs. Look. It's Han Chong. He's back. They had heard that he had gone to another world to train. They didn't expect him to finally return. This time, his strength would be even more terrifying. Discussions broke out one after another. Lin Xian turned his head and looked over with a look of surprise on his face. He had met Han Chong in True Spirit World before. He was already a saint, a top existence. Now that he had returned, his strength had increased again. He had reached the half-step Saint King realm. Lin Xian also knew that these people were all strong cultivators who had experienced hundreds of battles. After going through the trials of other worlds, ordinary half-step Saint Kings were much stronger. Han Chong walked over, bringing with him endless ice. Countless people were discussing. This guy was like Fairy Xueqi, an expert of the ice element. They didn't know if he could fight against the people of Misty Peak. Oh, an interesting guy? Mo Fan looked at Han Chong in surprise. Then he said, interesting. I'll give you a chance to attack first. Sorry. Han Chong cupped his fists and said. Then the precepts of his body erupted like an iceberg. The cold aura caused frost to appear on the people around him. Buzz. A ray of icy light covered the sky and flew forward. Too weak. Mo Fan sneered and slashed forward. The ice shattered. A large ice bow appeared in Han Chong's hand. As he drew it back, countless ice arrows flew forward, covering the sky and covering the earth. In an instant, the sky and earth were completely frozen. Boom. Boom. A lot of ice appeared on the surface. Mo Fan's hand was frozen by the ice. He felt that his movements had slowed down. Even the precepts were frozen. Humph! Mo Fan shouted. Holding the saber with both hands, he slashed down from the sky like a galaxy. Boom! The ice swords in the sky were mercilessly torn apart. It was over. Chapter 4474. Han Chong kept retreating. Many icicles appeared in front of him, about to pierce through everything. At the same time, countless icicles condensed into a clone behind Mo Fan. An icicle spear appeared in his hand, and he thrust it out like a dragon roaring. There were attacks from both the front and the back. It was a trap! Countless people exclaimed. Mo Fan naturally felt the terrifying power coming from behind him. With a roar, the seal on the battle saber in his hand was unlocked again. It formed a Saint King Wu. Chi with a single strike, the clone behind it was destroyed. Another saber strike forced Han Chong back. Han Chong fell out of the arena, his arm numb. I lost. He sighed. Who else? Mo Fan snorted. Next, Huiwa also went up. These were the people that Lin Xian had seen in the True Spirit World. They all went up one after another. In the end, they all lost. Young Master Ling Tian's face turned ghastly pale when he saw this. He thought that he could even defeat the other party in this battle. But now he had no hope at all. So he didn't go up. Everyone was in despair. One man and one saber swept the world. The people of Misty Peak were indeed strong. Damn it, Why didn't they send their experts? We also have saint-level experts. Some disciples gritted their teeth. However, the elders of the grotto heavens snorted. Are you really stupid or an idiot? If you want to die, don't drag the grotto heavens down with you. The other party is from Misty Peak. We don't even have time to befriend them. Who would be stupid enough to let a saint fight? Isn't this a challenge? Do you think you'll have a good ending if you go against Misty Peak? Now the half-step Saint Kings were just going to train. This way, they could train the disciples and not offend Misty Peak. No grotto heavens or ancient race dared to offend Misty Peak. However, there was an exception. Because a black-robed man walked over. Only a pair of eyes appeared on his body, emitting a cold light. His aura had reached the Saint King realm. Emofan and the other two had cold expressions. Take my strongest attack, Purple Flame Demonic Saber. Emofan roared and used the battle saber in his hand to the extreme. Balls of purple flames jumped, waving in the air. This saber was tens of thousands of miles long, slashing down from the sky. The black-robed man struck out with his palm, and the laws danced on it, forming a hand of laws that blocked the saber. Another punch knocked Emofan back. Emofan's face went pale. Damn it. He wanted to go all out, but at this moment Xingqian said, Junior apprentice brother Emo, stop. Leave this person to me. Emofan came to a stop and nodded. Very well, you can pass. However, sooner or later, you will have to stay under my senior brother Xingqian. The black-robed man chuckled coldly. Without saying a word, he walked to the side. Next he continued. More people walked out one after another, but they were all defeated. In the end, almost no one came out. Was there nothing left? Emofan swept his gaze around. At this moment, another figure walked out. His appearance caused countless cries of surprise. Lin Xian's gaze was steady, and his expression was calm as he walked forward. Was he going to participate as well? He actually dared to have designs on Fairy Xueqi. Acting recklessly. Battle servants could be killed directly. Cold laughter could be heard. The faces of the people from the Thousand Mountain Cave turned ugly. Damn it, a battle servant is participating? What a joke. Xianhai stood up and shouted angrily. Little battle servant, kneel down. Men, take him down. There were 4 figures in the surroundings, and they quickly walked toward Lin Xian. They all had chains of law in their hands, and they wanted to seal Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian's figure flickered, and he instantly arrived on the stage like lightning. The 4 of them were stunned. What a fast speed. Xianhai was also stunned. You get back. Xianhai roared and activated the life and death curse. In his opinion, no matter how strong a battle servant was, as long as the life and death curse was activated, he would definitely die. However, this time, there seemed to be an exception. Lin Xian stood there unaffected. How was this possible? Xianhai's pupils shrank. Who was this person? Did he not plant the life and death curse on him? The surrounding people were also in an uproar. Sacred Ruler Star Palace stood up abruptly and exclaimed, Impossible. I personally brought him to Elder Three-Eyed. He must have planted the life and death curse. Boy, this is not a place where you can come. Quickly leave. As he spoke, he also used the life and death curse. However, Lin Xian did not have any reaction at all. Damn it. What was going on? Sacred Ruler Xingqian's pupils shrank. His opponent was really unaffected. Could it be that there was a problem with the life and death curse? Quickly go and invite Elder Three-Eyed here. Sacred Ruler Xingqian roared, and the surrounding people instantly flew into the distance. Most of the elders had come to such a grand event. There were also some elders who did not come, and Elder Three-Eyed did not come. Now that there was a problem with the life and death curse, they naturally invited him over. Lin Xian raised his head and looked at Sacred Ruler Xingqian. A cold killing intent appeared in his eyes. Then he looked at Xianhai again and said in a clear voice, If I remember correctly, the martial arts competition invites everyone in the world. There are no special rules. Who said that I can't participate? Damn boy, can a battle servant be considered a human? Sacred Ruler Xingqian roared. The others also had cold faces. Indeed, in their eyes, a battle servant was no different from an ant. At this moment, Xueqi spoke up. Who said that he can't participate? I said that anyone can participate as long as they have the strength. The crowd was in an uproar. Fairy Xueqi was actually speaking up for the other party. Damn it, why? Many people went crazy. Xingchen's face also darkened. An ant was actually able to snatch away his face? I've inquired about this person. He's an array master and has helped Xueqi with a lot of array matters. That's why he can receive such treatment. An array master? Humph. A mere sacred ruler. No matter how strong he is, how strong can he be? Since he dares to go against me, I'll let him know what it's like to live a life worse than death. Xianhai wanted to say something, but at this moment, the Holy Heaven's old ancestor spoke up. All right, let him participate. If this continues, it will only embarrass us even more. This is against the rules. However, Black Ice old ancestor also nodded and let him participate. He would not pass anyway. Xianhai did not say anything else. The surrounding people were shocked. A battle servant was participating in the martial arts competition for a spouse. If this news spread, it would definitely shock the world. Mo Fan sneered. He had already received his senior brother's message. He would not let the other party go. Was he only a saint venerable? Too weak. I can kill you with a single finger. But don't worry, I won't really kill you. I'll cripple your cultivation and break your limbs, so that you can continue to live like an ant. After saying that, he laughed proudly. It's too early for you to be happy. You're just a half-step sacred ruler. I don't care about you. I advise you to quickly kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake. Then, I'll spare your life. Chapter 4475. What did you say? Mo Fan was stunned. Everyone was stunned. A sacred venerate was threatening a half-step sacred king? Furthermore, it was a peak half-step sacred king. What was this kid thinking? If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Mo Fan reached out his finger and pointed forward. Countless purple flames were dancing on it. The surrounding void shattered in an instant, unable to withstand this power at all. The people from the other grotto heavens sneered. Under this attack, this guy's soul would probably be destroyed. If an ant dies, then so be it. There's nothing to feel pity about. The surrounding people sneered. Facing the attack, Lin Xian put away his smile and attacked with lightning speed. He grabbed the finger with his palm. Crack. The finger broke, and a miserable cry rang out. Lin Xian broke the other party's arm with another palm. Ah! Sacred blood fell, piercing through heaven and earth. Mo Fan retreated in a sorry state, and his handsome face became sinister. The pain made him go crazy. You dare to hurt me? I'll kill you. At this moment, he could no longer care about anything else. His arm instantly recovered, and he slashed forward. Everyone was stunned. This guy was so strong that he could injure Mo Fan. Mo Fan must have been careless. Just watch, he would definitely die. Buzz. The saber flashed, and everyone's expressions changed. Whether it was Han Chong, Yu Hui, or Meng Hao, they were all defeated by this saber. This was especially true for Han Chong and Yu Hui. They had seen Lin Xian in the true spirit world before. They knew how terrifying this guy was. He was a top expert of a world. But so what? He had come to the buried Emperor Star to fight. Pooh. Now did he want to change his fate? It was impossible. They all shook their heads and sneered. I said that you're not my match. Seeing that Mo Fan continued to attack, Lin Xian shook his head and slapped again. This guy was crazy. That was the weapon of a sacred king. The surrounding people exclaimed. This guy's arm would be broken immediately. No matter how strong his body was, a sacred venerate couldn't block the weapon of a sacred king. Clang. The palm and the saber collided. The palm didn't break, and instead, it grabbed the saber. Then Lin Xian's other palm slapped over. A palm landed on Mo Fan's face. Mo Fan was sent flying like a kite with its string cut. His teeth scattered across the ground, and half of his face was smashed into pieces. This saber is not bad. It's a pity that it was used by you. What a waste. Lin Xian held his saber in a reverse grip and slashed out. Mo Fan rose to his feet. He was about to lose his temper when he was slashed in half. He roared madly as his soul escaped. Damn it, how dare you hurt me? Do you know who I am? Before he could finish his words, another slap landed on him, and his soul dimmed. Didn't you say you wanted to break my limbs? Cripple my cultivation? I'll fulfill your wish. Wang. The saber slashed at the soul. The saber shook as if it was roaring. Endless purple flames burned. However, it couldn't leave Lin Xian's palm. Damn it, how dare you! The people of Misty Peak were enraged. They pointed out their stardust finger, and terrifying starlight surrounded them as they charged towards Lin Xian. At the same time, the elders of the Thousand Mountain Cave also made their move. The two Saint Kings descended together, enveloping Lin Xian. A terrifying aura surged. Xueqi cried out in alarm and quickly retreated. Lin Xian blocked the starlight with his saber, but he didn't make a move. What? Are you going to ignore the rules in front of the whole world? Thousand Mountain Grotto Heaven's face has been completely disgraced by you. Stop. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor roared furiously. A monstrous aura of the great sage surged out and swept out in all directions. Everyone stopped. No one dared to make a move against Lin Xian. Xianhai's expression changed. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor couldn't be allowed to live. He had gone too far. He actually dared to hit the people of Misty Peak. It's hard to avoid mistakes in the arena. However, even if he deserves to die, we shouldn't be the ones to do it. Once this matter is over, we will personally deliver him to Misty Peak and let them deal with him. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor gave face to Misty Peak and protected Lin Xian at the same time. To be honest, he was only protecting Lin Xian because he wanted to make things difficult for Black Ice Ancestor. After all, if Black Ice Ancestor really joined hands with Misty Peak, it would be very disadvantageous for him. Therefore, he couldn't let this matter go smoothly. He had secretly sent that black-robed sage. Now that Lin Xian had displayed such great strength, he couldn't let Lin Xian die. Lin Xian was stunned. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor was protecting him? He didn't know the Holy Heaven's old ancestor at all. However, after thinking about it, he understood. The corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Did I pass? Xianhai gritted his teeth and said, You passed. The surrounding people were stunned. They had never thought that a battle servant with the cultivation of a Saint Venerate would successfully pass the test. How could this guy be so strong? He had actually defeated Mo Fan. Not only that, but he had also taken the Holy King's weapon with his bare hands. This guy's body was at least at the level of a Holy King. Is he really a Holy Venerate? I have a feeling that he was hiding his strength. Many people exclaimed. What's going on with this battle servant? The people from Thousand Mountain Cave also started to investigate. They wanted to find Lin Xian's secret. Xueqi also heaved a sigh of relief. As long as the elders didn't attack together, Lin Xian shouldn't have any problems. She might have seen Lin Xian kill a Holy King Elder with her own eyes. She quickly stood out and said, All right, I'll pass the test. To prevent these people from investigating Lin Xian's secret. All right, only 3 people passed the test. Next, I will fight with these 3 people. If you can defeat me, you can be my husband. The final battle was about to begin. The crowd held their breaths. They wondered who among the 3 would be able to defeat Xueqi. Someone sneered. Needless to say, it would definitely be Xingqian from Misty Peak. Apart from him, was there any possibility for the other 2? As for the battle servant, he probably wouldn't be a match for a Holy King. As for the black-robed man, he was extremely mysterious. However, young Master Xingqian wouldn't let him off. Let me go first. As Xueqi's voice echoed out, a person came to the arena. It was the black-robed man. Xingqian furrowed his brows. Who is this person? He unexpectedly dared to steal my limelight. In all honesty, he had only wanted to fight because he didn't want any undue delay. But now, the black-robed man had already gone, and it was too late for him to say anything. I want to see what kind of power you have that you dare to steal from me. Xingqian sneered coldly. Xueqi's expression was ice-cold as she looked at the black-robed man. This black-robed man was extremely mysterious and strange. She had to be careful. She couldn't lose this battle, and she couldn't afford to lose it. However, it was fortunate that she was now the 9 Yin tribe's inheritor. Her power was greater than before. She waved her hand, and a blue sword appeared in her hand. Black frost started spreading out from the sword. She was really a peerless fairy. When Shueqi used her laws, the black-robed man's eyes shone brightly. Chapter 4476. He was quite swift, and he tore through the void and arrived in front of Shueqi. A gale swept out, and his palm descended mercilessly. Bang! The void in the surroundings was shattered, and the spectators in the vicinity felt an indescribable pressure. This clearly showed how terrifying this strike was. This was a Saint King's all-out strike, and it was obvious that the black-robed man wanted to end the battle quickly. Xingqian took a deep breath, and he couldn't help but get worried. The black-robed man's power was beyond his imagination, and he wondered whether Shueqi could block him. If she was defeated, it would be difficult to resolve the situation. He was so quick. Shueqi was surprised, and she slashed out with the blue sword in her hand. She blocked the black-robed man's palm. When the two weapons collided, it was as if a saint weapon had collided, and the power that erupted out was as bright as the sun. So strong, this person's physique is actually so tyrannical. Shueqi was surprised. Black frost suddenly erupted from her sword, and it swept toward the black-robed man's palm. It quickly froze it and sealed it in ice. The black-robed man's body was quite powerful, but her ice was even more terrifying. Crack! Crack! In the twinkling of an eye, the black-robed man's palm was covered by black frost, and the frost even started spreading toward the black-robed man's body. The black-robed man's pupils contracted. The frost made him feel as if his entire arm was going to break. The power of the laws in his body started circulating, and it became extremely slow. Hateful. The black-robed man roared as he punched the black-robed man's arm with his other hand. The black-robed man's arm cracked open, and the frost was also shattered. At the same time, the black-robed man lashed out with his foot, which seemed like a heavenly blade. Shueqi quickly retreated. The power contained within the kick was terrifying, and she didn't dare to face it head-on. As she retreated, boundless black frost formed a pair of black wings on her back. The wings spread out, and as they fluttered, the frost that filled the sky engulfed the 9 heavens. The frost was formed by the 9 body, and it was much more powerful than ordinary frost. It was even more terrifying than the mysterious ice art. When the black frost appeared, the expressions of everyone present changed drastically. They all felt as if their bodies and souls were about to be sealed in ice. How could this frost be so terrifying? He had just advanced to the Saint King realm, and his power shouldn't be so terrifying. The Paradise's experts were all startled. Even Xianhai was startled. This isn't right, as this isn't the mysterious ice art. He also cultivated the profound ice incantation, so he was naturally very clear about this kind of power. Therefore, he looked at Black Ice Ancestor in confusion. Black Ice Ancestor, as the creator of the Black Ice technique, also shook her head. That's right, this was not the power of the Black Ice extinction. However, it was much stronger than the Black Ice tactics. It was obvious that she had obtained some kind of good fortune in the Land of Frost. Father, what do you think of this battle? Xianhai asked nervously. Black Ice Ancestor's eyes flickered. I was worried before. After all, she had just broken through and her realm was not stable. But now, after seeing the Black Frost, I was relieved. Chi'er had won this battle. As expected, the sky was filled with ice. The black-robed man's expression changed. The threat of the ice caused his heart to beat wildly. Moreover, he had come here in disguise, so it was impossible for him to use his most proficient divine ability. Otherwise, his identity would be exposed in an instant. At that time, he would end up in a miserable state. Thinking of this, his face turned gloomy, and his eyes erupted with an extremely terrifying radiance. Endless precepts gathered in his hand, forming a flower of the great path. Then a cold voice sounded. Wither. The flower of the great path quickly withered, and a cold aura swept out in all directions. The people in the surroundings felt their scalps go numb. What kind of power was this? It was so terrifying. It could take away all life. Lin Xian also frowned. It was quite similar to his death precepts. It was indeed a very dangerous divine ability. Shueqi also felt it, and the black wings on her back released ice that blocked everything. The world was frozen. Endless black runes appeared on her body, and they emitted a mysterious aura. At this moment, the ice was even more terrifying. It was as if she had turned into an ice god, and it swept out in all directions. The world was frozen, and the surroundings were sealed in ice. The black-robed man's precepts froze in the void, and endless ice appeared on his body. In the end, he had no choice but to escape with his soul, which was why he was not sealed in ice. However, his body had already been sealed in the arena. The black-robed man smiled bitterly. I admit defeat. Xueqi waved her hand, and the ice in the sky disappeared. The black-robed man's soul and body recovered, and he walked down from the arena. Soon after, he tore open the void and disappeared. What a powerful ice! Is this the black ice tactics? Many people cried out in alarm. The people in the vicinity were all dumbfounded. Xueqi's power was beyond their expectations. Even some of the veteran saints were surprised. The power that she had displayed didn't seem like someone who had just made a breakthrough. The Ethereal Peaks people smiled, and Xingqian nodded. It was his turn to fight. He would defeat Xueqi and marry her. Hateful. Yan Mo frowned, and his expression became gloomy. The Holy Heaven's old ancestor also frowned, as he was the one who had sent that person. He had thought that defeating Xueqi wouldn't be a problem. However, the ice that Xueqi had displayed was beyond his expectations. She hadn't used the ice tactics, and his plan had failed. On the other side, the black ice ancestor transmitted her voice to Hi, go and ask someone to follow that black-robed man. I suspect that someone is secretly attacking him. Xianhai nodded and sent someone to follow the black-robed man. Xingqian walked down from the arena. He wore armor, and his black hair fluttered in the wind. He looked like a young god of war, and many people looked up to him. Cheer, don't worry. I won't injure you in this battle. Xingqian came to the arena and said with a smile. Xueqi snorted coldly. Please call me by my name. I don't know you that well. Moreover, you won't be able to win this battle. Xueqi snorted coldly, and she waved the long sword in her hand. The black ice that filled the sky swept out once again. Let me show you my Star Clan's secret technique. Starlight illuminated the heavens and earth. Xingqian roared, and the mountains shook. The heavens collapsed and the earth cracked. Boundless starlight rushed out of his body, and it illuminated the 9 heavens. It turned into terrifying sword energy, and it descended from the sky. When the starlight and the ice collided, it was as if 2 worlds were fighting. Countless cracks spread out in all directions. Xingqian is so powerful. He is even more terrifying than the black-robed man. I wonder if Xueqi will be able to resist him. She won't be able to resist him. She is destined to become Xingqian's woman. The Ethereal Peaks people sneered coldly, as they were confident in Xingqian's strength. Ice seal. Xueqi was like an ice goddess, and she used her ice to freeze the entire world. The starlight in the sky was also sealed in midair. Duguju was surprised. He knew that the Star Clan's starlight was extremely terrifying, and ordinary ice couldn't resist it. Even the ice tactics couldn't seal it. Chapter 4477. Xingqian was also taken aback. She's really worthy of being my woman. She's really powerful. When the time comes, we will get married and join forces. We will surely be able to sweep the whole world. Even though his magical power was sealed by ice, Xingqian was still calm and confident. He formed a seal with his palms and shot out a Milky Way shadow. Countless starlight revolved around it, and it seemed like a starry sky was pressing down. The Milky Way shadow shattered the ice and frost that filled the sky. The boundless power contained within it was extremely terrifying. The Milky Way seal pressed down from the sky. Wherever it passed, the black ice and frost would shatter. However, when it came close to Xueqi, the Milky Way seal was blocked. It seemed like it couldn't advance any further. When the Misty Peaks members saw this, they furrowed their brows. The ice was really strange. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. It seemed like Xueqi had just gotten the 9-yin inheritance. Otherwise, it would be easy for her to seal Xingqian with her Sage Realm cultivation and the 9-yin inheritance. After Xueqi blocked the Milky Way seal, she started to counterattack. Countless black ice and frost turned into a rain of arrows that flew out and penetrated the sky. The Milky Way shadow was sealed. Moreover, the rain of arrows flew toward Xingqian. It seemed like it wanted to seal him as well. The armor on Xingqian's body shone brightly as he formed a seal with his palms and roared toward the sky. A Milky Way appeared on his body, and it revolved around him. Boom, boom, boom. The black ice and frost that filled the sky bombarded the Milky Way, and a terrifying sound echoed out. The Milky Way shadow shook, but it didn't shatter. What a powerful defense! The Thousand Mountain Paradise's members exclaimed in surprise. The Milky Way shadow was too terrifying, and it seemed like it could block everything. The other Paradise's members were also surprised. Xueqi was already in an invincible position. They wondered how Xueqi would continue to fight. Lin Xian furrowed his brows, and a golden radiance appeared in his eyes. In the next moment, a smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. It seemed like Xingqian would suffer a loss. He discovered that even though the ice and frost that filled the sky was blocked, it was arranged in a special pattern. Even though it was well hidden, as an expert in the art of formations, he was able to discover it in an instant. The two black wings on Xueqi's back turned into ice and frost, and they flew out. In the end, the black wings disappeared, and the Milky Way shadow. After passing through countless layers of frost, the starry river became dim and lightless. Then it cracked open. However, Stardust laughed loudly as he walked out. He realized that his opponent's ice attack had been completely blocked. It seemed like Xueqi had consumed a lot of her energy to cast such a magical ability. Therefore, it was time for him to counterattack. The Milky Way seal appeared in his hand again, and he swung it forward. The Milky Way seal blossomed with radiance, and the power that erupted from it was incomparable. It seemed to be even stronger than before. This Stardust had been fighting for so long, yet he still had such strength. Could it be that he had been hiding his strength before? Countless cries of surprise rang out. They knew that Xueqi was in danger. However, at this moment, a smile appeared on Xueqi's pale face. She formed a seal with her palm. The formation was activated. With a low bellow, the scattered frost in the surroundings suddenly began to revolve, emanating a brilliant radiance that formed a massive formation that shrouded the entire area. Icebound Array. As soon as it was formed, the terrifying ice completely enveloped the Stardust. Stardust let out a crazy roar. The armor on his body became dim in an instant. It seemed like he was going to be completely frozen. It was unexpectedly a formation. Moreover, it was an extremely terrifying formation. When did he set it up? The people in the surroundings were all dumbfounded. Why didn't they discover it before? The pupils of the Misty Peaks people also contracted. Duguju's eyes shone with a cold light as he realized that this was the case. After thinking about it for a moment, he discovered that the icy arrow rain wasn't just a powerful magical ability attack, but it also contained the power of a formation. After the attack was destroyed, the formation quietly condensed again. He had heard that Xueqi wasn't just an apex expert, but she was also an expert in formations. Now, it seemed like the rumors weren't false. It seemed like Stardust had been careless. However, with Stardust's trump card he shouldn't have lost. Stardust's expression became ice cold, and a ferocious look appeared on his face. Hateful. He unexpectedly used a formation to attack me. He was completely infuriated. As a roar echoed out, starlight rushed out of his body. A stardust stone formed between his eyebrows, and it blossomed with an unparalleled radiance. It seemed like he had turned into the most dazzling star in the world. As the power in his body erupted, it swept out in all directions and tore a crack in the formation. He had become even more powerful. Many people cried out in alarm. The formation's terror had already left them in despair. They hadn't expected that he would be able to break through the formation's restriction. Everything had come to an end. Stardust flew out of the formation's crack and charged toward Xueqi. He stretched out a finger, which was surrounded by a ray of starlight. It was the Star Spirit Finger. It was said that this finger could shatter the boundless starry sky, and it was one of the Misty Peak's most terrifying magical abilities. They hadn't expected that he would use it at this moment. The battle had come to an end. A smile appeared on Duguju's face. Mo Fan and the others from the Misty Peak also smiled. They had won. The others also sighed. Even though they had been defeated by such a magical ability, it was still an honorable defeat. Xueqi took a deep breath. She could clearly sense how terrifying this finger was. However, she wouldn't lose. In the next moment, her body kept changing, and she left behind countless icy afterimages as she extended her jade-like hands. Nine Divine Claw. Buzz. 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 A terrifying black shadow streaked across the sky, and a roar echoed out as stardust flew out. Scratches appeared on his body, and his body was penetrated. Fresh blood instantly flowed out of his body. What happened? Everyone was startled. Duguju stood up, and a terrifying radiance burst out of his eyes, which seemed capable of penetrating the heavens and the earth. Yuehua, Mo Fan, and the others were also startled. Was the star spirit finger broken? What was that black shadow a moment ago? What is this? The 1,000 Mountain Caves elders were also startled. Even the two old ancestors furrowed their brows. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. Could it be the Nine Divine Claw's most powerful technique? He had obtained the Nine Sons' Divine Claw's inheritance, and he knew that it wasn't as simple as the Divine Body. There were also some terrifying powerful techniques. It seemed like the technique that Xueqi had just used was one of those techniques. You have lost. Xueqi withdrew her palm and spoke coldly. On the other side, Stardust, who had fallen below the arena, couldn't believe what had happened. How is this possible? He had been defeated. He had become a Saint King 3 years ago, and he had practiced the Misty Peak's cultivation techniques and lost techniques. How could he have been defeated? Stardust gritted his teeth and roared. He had just stood up, but the wounds on his body suddenly opened up. His face turned pale, and he couldn't use his power. Not only had he been injured, but his wounds also contained a powerful icy aura that froze the laws and meridians in his body. Chapter 4478. Wang. Duguju took a step forward and arrived before Xingchen. He looked at Xingchen and checked his injuries. Then his face turned cold. It was even more serious than he had imagined. He took action, striking out with the power of laws. At the same time, he took out a secret pill. Quickly bring him back to rest. Mo Fan and the others quickly helped Xingchen to his feet and brought him to the side. Dugu Wuji asked coldly as he looked at Xueqi. What cultivation technique did Xueqi use a moment ago? It did not seem to be a martial art from the 1,000 Mountain Cave. The others were also puzzled and looked over. Xueqi said that she had gone to the cold mountain before, and she had obtained some good fortune there. Since the Misty Peak has many abilities, they shouldn't be interested in my little summoning. Stardust has already lost. I think he no longer has the qualifications to marry me. Xueqi looked at Duguju. Duguju's face darkened. The surrounding people also held their breaths, not daring to say anything. After a while, Duguju finally spoke. But of course, the people of Ethereal Peak were true to their words. Since they had lost, they had lost. Puff. Xingchen, who was in the midst of recuperating from his injuries, spurted a mouthful of blood upon hearing those words, and his face turned incomparably pale. Damn it. This time he really lost all his face. However, he swore that next time, he would definitely defeat her and marry her. Who would have thought that young noble Stardust would fail? That's right, it seems like the groom selection contest has come to an end. No one could marry Fairy Xueqi. I'm guessing that young Master Stardust will definitely make a comeback next time. Sighs could be heard as everyone seemed to have forgotten about Lin Xian's existence. It was as if Stardust's failure was the end. At this moment, Xueqi said, "You seem to have forgotten a person. I will challenge the third person." Is there anyone else? Right, it's that battle servant. Even young Master Stardust had been defeated. How could he possibly succeed? That's right, going up there would only be suicide. The people of Ethereal Peak shook their heads. The people from the other heavenly abodes were also surprised. They couldn't understand why Fairy Xueqi was so persistent. Could it be that she thought highly of this battle servant? The elders of Thousand Mountain Grotto Heaven naturally thought of this as well. They felt that it was a fantasy. Xianhai said, "Cheer, there's no need for a battle servant. You can't say that. Since he's already here, I'll give him a chance." The Yen-mo also laughed coldly. The people they had secretly sent had failed. However, this Lin Xian seemed to have a good understanding of formations. Perhaps he would be able to achieve unexpected results. Damn it! Xianhai gritted his teeth. On the ground, Xueqi looked at Lin Xian and said, "Come up. Let's fight the final battle." Lin Xian stood up and walked forward. He came to the arena and ignored the gazes of the others. Lin Xian said as he looked ahead, "Bring out your full strength, I won't hold back either." He was looking forward to the battle between the 9 yin and 9 yang. What kind of scene would it be? Xueqi nodded. In the next moment, the 9 yin body was activated. An endless black frost appeared on her body. On the other side, Lin Xian roared at the sky. The 9 suns' divine flame appeared on his body, and a scorching aura swept out in all directions. Half of the sky was instantly covered. What kind of aura was that? So valiant. The crowd was disdainful at first, but when they felt the aura of that power, they were shocked. They were all stunned. This person's physique was too unusual. He had mastered some ancient body-refining technique. Countless people were shocked. The elders were also stunned. Duguju's eyes shone with a cold light. The 2 great sages were also shocked. How could this battle servant be so strange? Black Ice Ancestor frowned. The Holy Heaven's ancestor, who was next to her, smiled. He wanted to see the scene after the victory. "Be careful, I'm going to attack with my full strength," Lin Xian said in a low voice. Then he stomped his foot and charged forward. He didn't use any laws or magical powers. He only used the power of his divine body to attack. His fist seemed to have turned into a sun, and it swept across the sky, shattering the void. On the other side, Xueqi also attacked, and her black palm struck out. Boom, boom, boom. The confrontation between the two's physiques was extremely strong. Cracks appeared on the entire arena, which shocked the crowd. Nothing happened when they fought with Xingqian. However, at this moment, the arena was shattered. It was unbelievable. Boundless ice appeared on Lin Xian's body and froze him. The 9 suns' divine fire swept across and melted the black ice. Not only that, but the flames also enveloped Xueqi. The black wings on her back blocked the attack. However, she had just obtained the 9 yin body. Her physique was definitely inferior to Lin Xian's. However, her cultivation was much higher than Lin Xian's. She was a holy king. Therefore, the two were evenly matched. Buzz. Lin Xian seemed to have turned into a sun god of war. His golden fist was invincible. The people in the surrounding heavens were dumbfounded. The geniuses in the heavens felt despair. Is he really just a battle servant? Why do I feel like he has surpassed us? They all lowered their heads in front of such power. Is this guy really so strong? Mo Fan and the others from the Misty Peak felt their scalps go numb. Mo Fan was furious when he was defeated, and he wanted to take revenge. He thought that Lin Xian had been careless. However, after witnessing this battle, he didn't have any thoughts of taking revenge anymore. He reckoned that he wouldn't be able to withstand even a single punch from such a terrifying attack. On the other side, Xueqi's body was encircled by ice. She seemed like an ice goddess. She opened a world of ice and frost. As soon as the monstrous fist entered her domain of ice and frost, it slowed down. Bang! Their fists and palms collided, and a deafening sound echoed out. The laws turned into divine chains that tore the sky apart. They exchanged hundreds and thousands of blows in a row, and everything in their path was shattered. The crowd was shocked when they saw this. "Be careful, I'm about to use my trump card," Xueqi warned him as she used the 9 yin divine claw. A black shadow streaked across the sky, and Lin Xian felt as if his body was being violently attacked. It was as if a sacred weapon had struck his body, and it was about to tear it apart. He roared as the 9 suns opened the sky. He opened his palms and tore apart the void. Heaven and earth were instantly split open, and a large crack extended into the distance. At this moment, Lin Xian attacked forcefully, and the black shadow that filled the sky was instantly torn apart. Not good. The strongest absolute art was actually broken. The people from the Thousand Mountain Wonderland cried out in alarm. This was the same attack that had defeated Xingqian. However, it was helpless against Lin Xian now. Is Xueqi going to be defeated? Lin Xian waved his fists, which carried an invincible aura. At this moment, his divine body emitted a dazzling radiance, and when he waved his 9 fists, the sky and earth were shattered. Nothing could obstruct him. Xueqi could only defend herself passively. 9 layers of ice formed on her body to block his attacks. In the end, the ice that filled the sky was shattered, and she was knocked back. Her face was pale. Xueqi had been defeated. Chapter 4479. How is this possible? The misty peak was stupefied. Xingqian even spouted a mouthful of blood. No. He roared crazily. No one had expected such an outcome. Xueqi had been defeated. Moreover, the victor was a battle servant. Are you all right? Lin Xian looked at Xueqi, who was below the arena, and asked concernedly. Xueqi shook her head and said, I'm all right. Your body is really strong, and I will surely catch up to you one day. She revealed a beautiful smile. Soon after, she said, You have won. From now on you will be my husband. This voice was like 10,000 claps of thunder, causing everyone to be stunned. Xianhai jumped out and said, I don't agree. Xingqian also roared. I also don't agree. How can you marry a battle servant? No way, am I dreaming? Damn it. Is Xueqi really going to marry a battle servant? Is this a joke? The people in the surroundings went into an uproar. The 1,000 mountain paradises people went crazy. If this matter spread, they wouldn't have any face left. Xueqi said coldly, Why can't I? I said that I will marry anyone who defeats me. Now Lin Xian defeated me, so I must fulfill my promise. I don't believe that you didn't want to marry me, so you came up with such a plan. You lost to him on purpose. Xingqian roared. He couldn't accept this. That's right. We also found it suspicious. Cheer, you can't be weaker than him. What? Do you want to go back on your word? Do you want to go back on your word in front of everyone? Lin Xian laughed loudly and looked at Xingqian. You don't accept it? Come over here and fight. I will show you the disparity between us. Is this guy challenging the Misty Peak? The people in the surroundings felt like they had gone crazy. Xingqian was so angry that he clenched his teeth and walked over. However, Yuhua said, You can't do that. You were just injured, and your power isn't at its peak. Lad, do you want to take advantage of him? Upon hearing this, Lin Xian laughed heartily. Take advantage of him? He is a saint king, while I am just a saint venerable. We are fighting fairly, yet you still think that he is at a disadvantage? The Misty Peak, he thought, is so cowardly. Fine, I will only use one hand. Do you dare to come over? At this moment, Lin Xian was like a peerless overlord, laughing arrogantly in all directions. You're courting death. I will kill you with my own hands. Stardust was completely enraged. He was a peerless heaven's favorite who was above the grotto heavens. Now that he was being challenged by a battle servant, how could he not fight? His figure flickered and he flew out. Speaking of which, come on brat, I will let you know the consequences of offending me. With one hand behind his back, Lin Xian said, I'll give you a handicap with one hand. Otherwise, you people from the Misty Peak will think that I'm taking advantage of your precarious situation. Xingqian snorted coldly. He didn't say anything else and directly attacked. Galaxy Seal. He formed a seal with his palm and struck out. A river of stars condensed in his palm. With a single strike, it tore through the heavens and earth. Stardust didn't hold anything back in this attack. Lin Xian attacked with a single hand. His palm formed a seal, and the man-ruler seal also struck out. At this moment, he was incomparably domineering, as if a celestial emperor had descended. Boom. Their superpowers collided in the air. With a crack, the galaxy seal shattered. The man-ruler seal swept out with the momentum of Mount Tai. Boom. Xingqian's face changed drastically and he frantically retreated. In an instant, his arm was broken and turned into a blood mist. Half of his body was completely shattered and he flew out. He lost. In just one move, Xingqian was seriously injured. Could it be that the gap between the two of them was really that big? Xingqian roared to the sky. I'm going to kill you. His glabella split open, and a wisp of starlight surrounded his finger. Star Spirit Finger. With a point of his finger, it tore through the void with a supreme aura. Lin Xian snorted coldly and struck out with the man-ruler seal again. That terrifying palm shattered the heavens and earth again. After one strike, the Star Spirit Finger turned into ashes. Xingqian's body was torn into pieces. His crazy roar made everyone's scalp tingle. The people from the Misty Peak were stunned. This guy really defeated Xingqian with one hand. Why? Do you still think that you're qualified to compete with me? Lin Xian looked at him with disdain. You. Xingqian was so angry that he vomited blood. Lin Xian said, I've already given you a handicap with one hand, and you're only a saint venerable. Are you still using your injuries as an excuse? If you're not convinced, I'll give you time to recover to your peak. But when the time comes, I'll fight you to the death. Do you dare? Xingqian was completely stunned and he fainted from anger. His senior brother, Yu Hua, and the others also rushed over. You're courting death. Yu Hua waved her hand, and a flying sword like a rainbow streaked across the sky. This was a sage artifact and Yu Hua was at the peak. Lin Xian snorted coldly. His 5 fingers formed a claw and directly grabbed the flying sword. Then he enveloped it. With a crack, the illusion of a huge mountain appeared on his palm, as if it had crossed time and space. Mountain Embracing Seal. It directly broke the flying sword into 2. Yu Hua vomited blood and flew backward. Her sage artifact was broken, and she was also seriously injured. He opened his 5 fingers, and the broken flying sword fell from his palm. Lin Xian looked around like a divine king. Who else is not convinced? Come out! At this moment he was so domineering that Ethereal Peak could not raise their heads. Everyone was stunned and silent. Duguju's face was as cold as water. This time he had lost a lot of face. I'm not convinced. Xianhai walked out. You're just a battle servant. What right do you have to marry my daughter? What right do I have? Lin Xian sneered. I've won. Can't you see it? I defeated Xingqian single-handedly. Are you blind? What right do you think I have? My strength. Strength is my right. Lin Xian's voice was sonorous. He did not back down. You're courting death. Xianhai snorted. Where's the 3-eyed elder? In the distance, a woman flew over. She was wearing a Taoist robe and had a 3rd eye between her brows. At this moment, she looked at Lin Xian and sighed. You're a top genius in other worlds. But here, you're still just a battle servant. So what if you win? Kneel down. The 3rd eye between her brows bloomed and formed a divine light that pierced through Lin Xian. The others were in despair. This guy's fate was really tragic. He was probably going to be completely suppressed. Lin Xian sneered and waved his hand, shattering the divine light. You want me to kneel? Just you? How is that possible? The 3-eyed elder was stunned. You're not affected? He used the life and death curse, but Lin Xian stood there with a cold face. He was not affected at all. How did you break the life and death curse? Lin Xian did not reply. He stood there with his hands behind his back, as if he was going to be the enemy of the entire world. Damn it! Men, take him down. Xianhai saw this and roared. Countless saint kings in the surroundings stood up. So what if the other party was strong? Could he fight against their entire grotto heaven? At this moment, the Elysian old ancestor snorted. Enough! Haven't you embarrassed yourself enough? Chapter 4480. That's right. Elder Xianhai, you went back on your words. What do you think of Thousand Mountain Grotto? Yan Mo also sneered. The 2 of them were also shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to win. Since that was the case, they would go with the flow. This way, Black Ice Ancestor would not be able to work with Misty Peak. To them, this was simply great news. They were naturally happy to see this happen. Xianhai was about to vomit blood. The other party was an ancestor. He did not dare to go against him. He could only look at his father. Black Ice Ancestor's face was cold. This matter was too strange. This kid was not controlled by the life and death curse. I suspect that Xueqi was deceived by him. He looked at Duguju and said, Daoist Dugu, I've let you see a joke. However, I will give you a satisfactory explanation. After saying that, he stood up and looked around. Everyone, the martial arts competition has ended. Thousand Mountain Grotto has something to deal with. I hope you can make it easy for us. The people of the other grotto heavens and ancient race felt their scalps go numb when they heard this. They stood up and took their leave one after another. At the same time, they looked at Lin Xian with pity. This kid, so what if he won? He was still going to die. Just as everyone was about to leave, a cold snort sounded. Humph, Thousand Mountain Grotto, you have made me lose. Everyone was stunned. Who dared to challenge Thousand Mountain Grotto at this time? Xianhai was also angry. Who was so courting death? Before he finished speaking, he was stunned. He realized that the person who spoke was Jian Wuk. Jian Wuk stood up and smiled. I said it. Do you have a problem with that? Xianhai was sweating profusely. He did not dare to speak. Black Ice Ancestor frowned. Taoist Wuk, what do you mean? Jian Wuk said proudly. My meaning is clear. This young man defeated a sacred king with one hand as a sacred venerate. He was a heaven-defying expert. Even in Misty Peak, there were not many people with such talent. But you want to be a battle servant? And you want to destroy him? How stupid. If Thousand Mountain Grotto does not want such a genius, then Xiantian Pavilion will. Jian Wuk's words resounded in the surroundings. When the surrounding people heard this, they were all stunned. As for the sacred kings, their pupils constricted. Xiantian Pavilion. This name was so familiar, it was like a thunderclap reverberating in his ears. Because it was also a force that was not weaker than the Misty Peak. The only difference was that Ethereal Peak controlled this region while Xiantian Pavilion was the overlord of another region. He just didn't expect that the people from Xiantian Pavilion would actually come here this time. And he even said such words. Xueqi stood there and looked at Lin Xian, who was standing proudly in front of her. She heaved a sigh of relief. To be honest, she was extremely nervous just now. If the Heavenly Grotto had made a move, she would have risked everything to fight against Lin Xian. Or even leave this place. Who would have thought that in the end, the Xiantian Pavilion's people would actually stand up and think so highly of Lin Xian? In the Black Sea, Yanemo was stunned. Even the two patriarchs were stunned. Did Xiantian Pavilion think highly of him? Truth be told, it wasn't that they didn't know that Zhang Xian was a genius, but they were used to being high and mighty. It was only natural that they would find it intolerable to be injured by an ant in their eyes. So what if he was a genius? They would still trample him to death. But now, Xiantian Pavilion's words shocked them. If Xiantian Pavilion made a move to protect Lin Xian, they wouldn't dare to make a move. At this moment, Duguju stood up. Taoist Wuk, I don't agree with your words. This young man is a peerless genius, but Ethereal Peak is filled with talents. There are too many people who can surpass him. Too many? Jian Wuk sneered. Then find one for me now. How could a holy venerate be able to compete with him? Then, I will leave Xiantian Pavilion. Duguju didn't say anything. To be honest, he really couldn't find one. A half-step holy king with a holy king's weapon could at most compete with a holy king. It was too difficult to defeat a holy king. Not to mention a holy venerate defeating a holy king with his bare hands. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it. Seeing that Zhang Xian was silent, Jian Wuk sneered. Then he turned his head and asked, Little fellow, are you willing to join Xiantian Pavilion? Lin Xian raised his head and looked at Jian Wuk. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you, senior. I am willing. Although Lin Xian didn't know Jian Wuk, he could feel Jian Wuk's goodwill. This was completely different from the Holy Heaven's old ancestor helping him. Good. Jian Wuk laughed and took out a token. It was the Xiantian token. From now on, you are a disciple of Xiantian Pavilion. The people in the surrounding grottos were all stunned. Some of the geniuses' eyes even turned red. A disciple of Xiantian Pavilion. This was the same as joining Ethereal Peak. This was their lifelong wish and dream. They had worked hard for their entire lives and still hadn't achieved this goal. Now Jian Wuk had become a member of Xiantian Pavilion so easily. Even Xianhai's pupils shrank. This meant that Jian Wuk's status was different. Jian Wuk laughed. Why? Now, does a member of Xiantian Pavilion have the right to marry Xueqi? What? Xianhai was stunned. Elder Xianbing also sighed. He closed his eyes and said helplessly, yes. Then he looked at Duguju. Brother Dugu, it seems like Xueqi and young Master Xingqian aren't fated to be together. I will return all the gifts you gave me. After this matter, I will personally go to Ethereal Peak and apologize. Duguju snorted and waved his hand. The laws in the sky brought Xingqian, Yuhua, and the others into the sky and left. Today was too embarrassing. Ethereal Peak was defeated by a battle servant to the point where they couldn't raise their heads. They didn't have the face to stay here anymore. Very good. Then let's start preparing. I still want to attend the wedding. Jian Wuk laughed. Black Ice old ancestor said, Brother Wuk, you must be joking. Although I have acknowledged the relationship between the two of them, the wedding isn't something that can be held in a day. Our 1,000 mountain grottos needs to prepare well. Alright, I will wait. Don't make Xiantian Pavilion wait too long. Jian Wuk said coldly. Then he looked at Lin Xian. Kid, report to Xiantian Pavilion when you are free. Your token is a symbol of your identity. When you are in danger, you can use the array on the token to ask for help from Xiantian Pavilion. Xiantian Pavilion will immediately send experts over. I want to see who dares to go against Xiantian Pavilion. The last words were for Black Ice old ancestor and 1,000 mountain grottos. As expected, the people from 1,000 mountain grottos felt their scalps go numb. They didn't dare to fight against such a terrifying existence. Jian Wuk left, but the matter didn't seem to have stopped. After the people from the other grottos left, the news spread through the entire world. Countless people were shocked. They didn't expect the marriage by joust to be such a thing. They thought of countless possibilities. They even thought that the final winner would be Ethereal Peak. But things were out of their expectations. Chapter 4482. Xueqi, your husband has gone too far. Yanhua looked at Xueqi. Xueqi shook her head. I don't think he's wrong. It's you who challenged me first. Alright, you've said so much. Don't you just want to attack me? I'll give you the chance. Lin Xian sneered coldly. Both of you, come at me together. You don't have the qualifications to make me attack you. Go and teach him a lesson, but don't kill him. Otherwise, Xueqi will be sad. Yanhua sneered coldly. The old servant walked over from behind him. Lad, you want me to teach you a lesson? He stretched out his hand, which was surrounded by laws, and it seemed like a cage that descended from the sky. He was a saint king who had cultivated for a long time. Now that he attacked with his full power, his opponent wouldn't be able to resist him. He wouldn't kill him, but he would break his limbs and teach him a lesson. Xueqi furrowed her brows. This old man was too ruthless. However, she wasn't worried about Lin Xian. Lin Xian was someone who could defeat her, and his body had become even more powerful. Buzz. Lin Xian also punched out, and his fist turned into a sun. Boom. The old servant's hand shook, and it shattered. The old man's expression changed drastically. He was so powerful. He quickly retreated. However, it was already too late. Lin Xian attacked him with his palm once again. Since his opponent wanted to kill him, Lin Xian also didn't hold back. His attack engulfed his opponent. Boom. The old man was instantly smashed into pieces and turned into a bloody mist. His shattered body tried to heal, but Lin Xian shot out several rays of sword energy and pierced through him. He was nailed to the mountain peak. Ah! The old servant roared crazily, as he couldn't escape. An ant like you, who has lived for several thousand years, is still so weak. Yet you still dare to attack me. I can only say that you don't know the difference between life and death. Lin Xian sneered coldly. He looked at Yanhua and said, Your servant is trash. Why don't you attack him yourself? Yanhua's expression was gloomy. He had wanted to teach his opponent a lesson, but he didn't expect that his opponent was so powerful. His old servant was a saint king who had been famous for 100 years, yet he still wasn't a match for his opponent. Even if he wanted to make a move, he wasn't confident that he could succeed. So he said, Very good, kid, I'll remember you. Let my men go. I want to leave. You want to leave? Fine, break your arms and give me your storage ring. Then I'll spare your life. Lin Xian said. What? Yanhua was instantly enraged. Say that again? The other party actually wanted to hurt him? He even wanted to snatch his storage ring. Did this guy want to die? Lin Xian snorted. What? Don't you understand what I'm saying? Since that's the case, I'll do it myself. With a sweep of his hand, he charged forward. The other party had already made a move on him, so how could he hold back? If this was not the first peak, he would have slapped the other party to death long ago. Lin Xian's palm was as golden as a god and as heavy as a mountain. The void could not withstand it at all. Yanhua bellowed, shooting out a flaming battle diagram. Divine chains of laws surged from it to resist the attack. But in an instant it shattered. His arms broke, and he let out a painful roar. Lin Xian had no intention of stopping. His palm was like the sky as it pressed down again. Yanhua's body was bent, and with a plop, he knelt on the ground. His entire face became ferocious. Damn it, he was going crazy. How could the other party be so powerful? I'll hand over my storage ring, and you'll stop. He did not dare to fight again. Lin Xian retracted his palm and sneered. You should have done this earlier. Here. Yanhua took out his storage ring, and threw it to Lin Xian. Then, he quickly fled with his old servant. He did not leave the first peak immediately. Instead, he went to look for the elders guarding the first peak. After finding them, he said, I want to kill that guy. Those elders were also hesitant. One of them said, Young Master Yanhua, we also want to attack him. But Princess Xueqi is by his side, so we can't do it. If we do, we'll break the rules. If the other party catches us, we'll probably be punished. Another elder said, Young Master Yanhua, your sixth uncle is currently cultivating in seclusion in the first peak. If he comes out of seclusion, he'll definitely be able to injure that kid. Really? My sixth uncle is about to break through. Yanhua's eyes lit up. He said, Okay, I'll wait for my sixth uncle to break through. Keep an eye on that kid. Don't let him leave. The elders smiled and said, Don't worry, although we can't make a move. Although we can't do anything, we can still find a reason to temporarily seal the first peak. The elders quickly moved and formed a formation to seal the first peak. On the other side, Lin Xian and Xueqi came to a cave abode and began to cultivate. The spiritual energy here was too abundant, and there were mountains of natural treasures around. In addition, Lin Xian had just obtained 2 storage rings from Yanhua. It could be said that the resources here were very abundant. He took out all the natural treasures, and then used the Great Dragon Sword Soul. The Great Dragon Sword Soul quickly devoured them. The spiritual energy and power in the sky turned into a vortex and rushed into Lin Xian's body. Xueqi, who was next to him, was also stunned. The absorption of this power was too strong. She didn't dare to do it. Even if Lin Xian had a divine body, he wouldn't dare to do it. She was really worried about Lin Xian. However, Lin Xian didn't care. The awakening of the Great Dragon Sword Soul would require more power every time it leveled up. Now that he finally found a spirit vein like the first peak, how could he miss it? As a result, the first mountain started to shake violently. What happened? The elders of the first peak were also shocked. Even the people who were cultivating in the other cave abodes were also very confused. They thought that the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. At this moment, the sky darkened and countless lightning bolts gathered. Is he going to break through? They looked into the distance. Yanhua was also happy. That direction was where his sixth uncle was. In other words, his sixth uncle was going to break through. That was great. There was a middle-aged man in the cave in that direction. However, he suddenly opened his eyes. What's going on? The power around him was quickly disappearing. Who took advantage of it? She looked into the distance. At the same time, a formation appeared in Xueqi's cave abode and concealed all information. It was at this moment that the lightning came crashing down. Lin Xian let out a long howl as he fought against it. Boom, 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 boom. The people of the first peak were very quiet. They were all waiting silently. Because of the formation, they didn't know who was breaking through. Yanhua and the others believed that his sixth uncle was breaking through. The elders were also surprised. No way. Is he going to break through to the Great Sage King realm? These people were too shocked. Looking at the appearance of this lightning tribulation, it was extremely terrifying. After waiting for a long time, the thunder that filled the sky disappeared. Great! He succeeded. Yanhua was happy. His sixth uncle was going to become a great sage king. His strength would definitely undergo an earth-shattering change. A great sage king could kill a great sage king with one punch. Chapter 4483. After a short while the cave opened, and a middle-aged man walked out. Congratulations, sixth uncle, for successfully breaking through and reaching the middle stage of the Holy King realm. Yanhua quickly bowed. However, the middle-aged man frowned and said, "Who told you that I broke through?" What? Yanhua was stunned. He looked carefully and found that his sixth uncle was still at the middle stage of the Holy King realm. Although his aura was much more powerful than before, he was not at the middle stage of the Holy King realm. Then who was breaking through? He had seen thunder falling with his own eyes. The middle-aged man shook his head and said, "I don't know. It should be another elder." The middle-aged man was Yanhua. Confusion appeared in his eyes. Previously, when he was cultivating, he did feel a strange change. Then he asked, "Why did you come to find me?" "Sixth uncle, there is a lad who is too hateful. Help me teach him a lesson." He told him what had happened before, and he added some details. After Yanhua heard this, he was instantly angry. "Are you trying to challenge us by acting so recklessly? I want to see how arrogant he can be." His cultivation power had been taken away by someone else, and he was already in a bad mood. Now that such a thing had happened, he naturally had to take action. In her opinion, no matter how strong a holy venerable was, could he be stronger than her? On the other side, the array in Shueqi's cave slowly disappeared. Shueqi looked forward nervously. Finally, she saw a figure walk out. Great, he had broken through. She could feel that Lin Xian's cultivation had reached the peak of the holy venerable realm. He would be a half-step holy king if he took another step. Lin Xian was also very satisfied. He could feel that his power had become stronger than before. Now, if he met Xingqian again, he could probably destroy his opponent's astral soul with a slap. "Let's go back," Lin Xian said. This time, the great dragon sword soul had absorbed too much power, causing the first mountain's power to weaken greatly. It would not be effective if he continued to stay here. Moreover, the changes in the first mountain would definitely be noticed by others. Lin Xian did not want his secret to be discovered. So he prepared to leave. Shueqi, who was beside him, nodded. The two of them left the cave and walked outside. "Brat, you finally came out. I thought you were going to hide in there forever." At that instant, an icy voice could be heard. Lin Xian frowned and looked to the side. Yanhua and the old servant were standing beside him. Other than that, there was also a middle-aged man. This middle-aged man's aura was even stronger. "Oh, what's wrong? Are you here to give me another storage ring? This time, I'm not just going to break your arms. Damn it, do you want to die?" Yanhua recalled how the other party had broken his arms, forced him to kneel, and even gave away his storage ring. He was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. He said, "Sixth uncle, it's this detestable brat. You must help me teach him a lesson. Yanhua, you've made trouble for me again and again. Do you really think I don't dare to do anything?" Shueqi also walked out. Lin Xian smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'll test out my current strength." Lin Xian walked out and looked at the middle-aged man. He said, "You want to attack me? However, you'd better think about the consequences of attacking me. You can't afford it. I've long heard that a very arrogant battle servant has come to the Thousand Mountain Cave. Today, I'll see what makes you so arrogant." Yanhua was also angry. He took a step forward and an extremely cold light appeared in his hand. It looked like millions of rays of sunlight. His palm turned into a demonic dragon and swept out like a mountain range. The demonic dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it charged toward Lin Xian. It had to be said that Yanhua's strength was much stronger than Yanhua and the old servant. He was also an extremely terrifying existence in the early stage of the Saint King realm. Moreover, his strength had increased greatly after this closed-door cultivation. Therefore, he was very confident that he could kill Lin Xian with one blow. Buzz. A ray of sword energy appeared in Lin Xian's hand. It was the sun sword and he slashed forward. It collided with his opponent's palm. Suddenly, the surrounding mountains shook violently. Countless formations flickered in and out of existence. After one blow, Lin Xian was as steady as Mount Tai. On the opposite side, the middle-aged man's face turned completely ugly. He felt that his entire arm was numb. He could block Sixth Uncle's blow. Yanhua's eyes almost popped out. He knew how terrifying his sixth uncle was. No one in the younger generation could compete with him. However, this kid blocked all of his attacks. Sixth uncle. This kid has some kind of super strong body refining technique. Don't fight him in close combat. Yanhua reminded him. Sixth uncle nodded after hearing this. So that's why you're so arrogant. However, you're too naive. No matter how strong you are, you can't compete with a true Saint King. Watch me kill you with my magical power. He stretched out his hand again and kept forming seals. Countless laws condensed and formed a huge seal. Giant rock palm. As soon as it was slapped out, the surroundings were petrified. This guy was a rock element expert. The whole sky seemed to have turned into a cage and pressed down. Open for me. Lin Xian shouted angrily. He took a step forward and struck out the invincible sword. He opened and closed his hands, and the divine fire turned into a sword shadow with the power to split heaven and earth. Boom boom boom. The rock streaked across the sky, and cracks appeared. Then it was torn apart. The invincible sword fell. Sixth uncle's pupils shrank, and he struck out two shields to block it. He blocked the invincible sword. However, at this moment, the invincible sword attacked again. This was also a terrifying magical power that was not weaker than the human ruler seal. With one blow, the opponent was sent flying. The armor on Sixth Uncle's body was shattered, and a crack appeared, almost splitting him in half. He couldn't believe it. Yanhua was so scared that he almost knelt on the ground. His sixth uncle was defeated? Thinking of this, he kept retreating, trying to escape. Lin Xian sneered. He stomped his foot and activated the 10 ultimate sword formation, sealing the surroundings. You still want to escape? I said, take my wrath. Damn it, how dare you hurt me? At this moment, sixth uncle rushed out. His entire body turned into a rock, and there were even flames burning on his body. He formed a flaming rock giant that was incomparably powerful. Soaring flaming rock fist. This was his famous consummate skill, and no one of the same level could block it. Buzz. Lin Xian waved his arm and struck out the mountain embracing seal. A primordial demon mountain fell from the sky, as if it was going to crush the sky. The terrifying fist was blocked, and then cracks appeared on his arm. Sixth uncle's body shook violently, and then it kept shattering. He finally couldn't resist under the primordial demon mountain. Lin Xian struck out the mountain embracing seal again. The two primordial demon mountains completely suppressed the opponent. His strength is not bad, but that's all. Lin Xian said indifferently. He turned his gaze and looked at Yanhua. Yanhua almost knelt down. He said in horror. What are you trying to do? Kid, I'm warning you, don't attack me. Chapter 4484. Now that you know how to be afraid, you still dare to threaten me? I already said that if you attack me again, I won't just cripple your arms. I will cripple you. What? Yanhua was alarmed, and he quickly went to ask the elders for help. If this guy wanted to cripple him, it would be even more terrifying than killing him. The old servant wanted to retreat and ask for help. Xueqi waved her hand, and frost filled the sky and sealed the old servant in ice. The old servant's eyes widened. He was a Saint King expert, but he couldn't even withstand a single blow from Xueqi. The 10 Ju swords appeared in Lin Xian's hand, and they pierced through the old man's body. The great dragon sword soul's power roared, and it shattered the old man's laws and power. Yanhua roared, and despair appeared on his face. He felt that his power had instantly disappeared. No. He had gone crazy. Lin Xian waved his hand and unleashed a seal to seal the other party. Then he threw him into the great sage pagoda. In the next instant, he crippled Yanhua and sealed him again. As for the old servant, he directly killed him and turned him into a bloody mist. Then he burned him with the 9 suns' divine flame. Husband, how do you plan to deal with these 2 people? Xueqi asked. Lin Xian replied, let's go back first. He waved his hand and removed the formation. Then the 2 of them walked outside. The 2 of them went to the foot of the mountain. The 3 elders guarding the mountain were stunned. Why did this guy come out? Could it be that Yanhua didn't look for trouble with this guy? Although they were puzzled, they had to remove the seal and let the 2 of them go out safely. After they went back, the 2 of them went to Xueqi's residence. Xueqi said that if they killed them, the Holy Heaven's old ancestor would know about it, and it would be very troublesome. Lin Xian nodded. He said that he didn't plan to kill them, and that he would go out in 2 days and find an uninhabited mountain range to suppress them for several thousand years. No one would be able to find them. Do you want to go out? Xueqi asked. Lin Xian nodded, and he took out a map from his storage ring. The map was emitting a faint radiance at this moment. That map was something that he had snatched from the people of the Violet Spirit Paradise. The fragment of the map had been sitting quietly in his storage ring. In the past few days he had begun to shine. Lin Xian guessed that something must have happened to the place marked on the map. Therefore he was prepared to investigate. But before that, Lin Xian still had some things to do. Xueqi, tell me more about the Stellar Saints, he said. Xueqi nodded. She said that Star Saint King was a member of the Star Clan. However, his status in the clan wasn't high, so he could only stay in the heavenly abode. However, in the paradise his status was not low. He was an elder, and his cultivation had reached the middle stage of Holy Venerate. It was said that he would soon reach the late stage. Are you going to attack him? She also knew that it was the Sacred Star Monarch who had captured Lin Xian. Lin Xian said, that's right, this guy dared to injure my senior brother, and even dared to steal the peerless sword. I'll deal with him myself sooner or later. However, now wasn't the time. Indeed, although Lin Xian had reached the peak of Holy Venerate, the Sacred Star Monarch wasn't simple. He was an extremely terrifying existence in the middle stage of Holy King Realm. And he was even about to break through. Therefore, Lin Xian felt that it was best to break through and become a half-step Holy King before dealing with this guy. You said that he had 3 disciples? Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. Then, I'll let him know what it feels like to have his disciples captured. I know. Xueqi ordered someone to call these 3 disciples over. Half a day later, 3 people arrived. They stood in front of the main hall with puzzled expressions. They didn't know why Princess Xueqi was looking for them. After waiting for half a day, Xueqi didn't appear. However, a young man walked in. They frowned. They naturally knew this guy. It was Lin Xian. The second disciple asked, Boy, where is Princess Xueqi? Why is she looking for us? Hurry up and tell Princess Xueqi that we are here, the third disciple said proudly. Lin Xian glanced at the 3 people before he sat down boldly. Princess Xueqi won't see you, because I'm the one looking for you. You. The 3 disciples were taken aback. The eldest disciple asked, Why are you looking for us? What's the matter? Lin Xian sneered. How dare you come to Princess Xueqi's residence without permission? Kneel down and accept your death. The 3 people's expressions changed. The eldest disciple said, Hateful. We were invited here. Who can prove that? Lin Xian stood up, and a cold killing intent emanated from his body. The second disciple said, Boy, you want to take revenge, right? Our teacher captured you and made you a battle servant. Do you bear a grudge against him? Lin Xian nodded. That's right. Doesn't the Star Holy King like to go around suppressing people? I'll let him know what it feels like to have his disciple suppressed. He's courting death. Attack. The 3 people shouted angrily. They naturally knew that they had to leave this place quickly. The 3 people's speed was very fast. They didn't escape, but charged directly at Lin Xian. One of them struck out with his palms, which were like 2 mountains. Another person struck out with a black hole, which enveloped Lin Xian. The third person formed a seal with his palms, and a terrible storm tore the void into pieces. The eldest disciple, who was the strongest among the 3, was already an early-stage Holy King. The other 2 were half-step Holy Kings. The 3 of them attacked together, and the momentum was shocking. The place where Lin Xian was completely shattered. The three people looked at this scene and laughed proudly. What peerless genius. I think he's just SOSO. Let's go. The three of them turned around and were about to leave. However, at this time, they realized that a figure had appeared in front of them, blocking their way. How is this possible? The three people's expressions changed drastically. Isn't that the boy? They suddenly turned around and looked at the shattered void. Cold sweat flowed down their backs. That terrifying attack just now didn't hurt him at all. How did he dodge it? Mountain embracing seal. Lin Xian waved his hand, and an ancient mountain directly fell from the sky, pressing down on the three people. Damn it! The three people roared. Eldest senior brother struck out with his palms, which were vast and could sweep away everything. However, in front of the ancient mountain, his arms were instantly broken. The other two half-step holy kings couldn't withstand it, and their bodies instantly turned into a bloody mist. The three people were completely suppressed. Damn boy, let us go. Do you believe that when my master comes, he will tear you into pieces? The three people roared. Lin Xian looked at the three people and sneered. Don't worry, your master will be here soon. He stood up and said in a clear voice. Someone, go and tell Star Holy King to come and pick up his disciple. Soon, a figure soared into the sky. Not long after, a roar was heard. This was too much. Star Holy King, carrying the supreme power of the stars, descended from the sky. He strode over. Chapter 4485. Kid, let go of my disciples. Don't you just want to take revenge? Fight me if you have the ability. Don't worry, it will be your turn soon. Lin Xian looked at the other party, his eyes filled with killing intent. I can't let go of your three disciples. They trespassed into Princess Xueqi's residence, so I've decided to cripple them. How dare you? Sacred King Xingqian roared. Lin Xian waved his hand. Why wouldn't I dare? The mountain-embracing seal erupted, completely crippling the three of them. The three of them fell to the ground and became crippled. Ah! The three of them roared, their eyes filled with despair. Master, kill him. Avenge us. Yes, we must tear him into pieces. Sacred King Xingqian's eyes instantly turned red. It wasn't easy for him to nurture these three disciples, especially his eldest disciple, who was already a sacred king. His future achievements were limitless. But now they were crippled just like that. You're courting death. Countless stars appeared on Sacred King Xingqian's body, and a terrifying killing intent swept out. Lin Xian took out the Xiantian token. He said, Can you bear the anger of the Xiantian pavilion if you attack me? Sacred King Xingqian's face became even uglier, but he didn't act rashly. He was so angry. If he didn't have the Xiantian ridge, he would definitely be able to kill Lin Xian with a slap. He snorted, gritted his teeth and said, Do you think the Xiantian token can protect you forever? This time you challenge me first. Even if I attack you, the Xiantian pavilion won't say anything. Is that so? You can try. Lin Xian didn't care at all. At this time, Xueqi also walked out from the side. She said coldly, Elder Xingqian, you've gone too far. Your three disciples came here without my permission. They deserve to be crippled. As for you, you didn't discipline your disciples well. How should you be punished? Sacred King Xingqian's face became even uglier when he saw Xueqi walk out. He knew that if he didn't pay a price today, he wouldn't be able to walk out of here alive. Therefore, he said, It's my fault for not teaching you well, and I'm willing to accept the punishment. Xueqi nodded and said, Men, take the lightning code and execute the lightning punishment. Very quickly, someone respectfully took out a grimoire. It was surrounded by lightning. Clearly, it was a terrifying treasure. After Xueqi took it, she let Lei Dian float in the air and said, Xingqian Elder, accept the lightning punishment. The sacred king of stars knelt on the ground, his back facing the thunder tome. As for Xueqi, she looked at Lin Xian and said, There's a total of 360 strikes. You can execute them personally. Lin Xian nodded. He used the law of thunder. The tome of thunder shone brightly, and thunder and lightning flew out. Every strike was extremely terrifying. Even a saint king could not withstand it, and could only allow the thunder to fall. Moreover, Lin Xian had used the power of the great dragon sword soul in this thunder. Therefore, after the 360 thunderbolts struck, Sacred King Star's body was bleeding profusely, and his wounds were unable to heal. He gritted his teeth and stood up, looking extremely ferocious. Brat, don't think that you can continue to be arrogant just because you have the support of Princess Xueqi and the Xiantian Pavilion. Do you see this sword? We have been searching for this person. Now that I've found news of him, I'll capture him and make him my battle servant. I really want to see your expression when the time comes. He took out the unparalleled sword. When Lin Xian heard this, he was instantly enraged. His eyes were filled with a terrifying killing intent. His opponent was still looking for the unparalleled Saint King. How despicable. He took a deep breath and said coldly, 1 year. In 1 year, I will challenge you to a duel of life and death. 1 year? I will wait. Sacred King Xingqian also roared. He finally had a chance to kill his opponent. No matter how strong his opponent was, how much could his strength increase in a year? His cultivation level was much higher than his opponent's. He could still kill his opponent in one move in 10 years, let alone 1 year. Xueqi frowned as she looked at Saint King Xingqian's back. Isn't 1 year too short? Lin Xian shook his head. They have already started looking for my senior brother. I don't have much time. Xueqi said. Don't worry, I will also help you look for your senior brother. I will also keep an eye on Sacred King Star. Yes, I will leave this to you. Oh yes, be careful. He is related to the Star Tribe. I don't think those people from Ethereal Peak will let this go. 10 days later, I will leave. Lin Xian's eyes flickered. In the following days, he went into seclusion to adjust his condition to his peak. Then he left. When he left, Xueqi found Sacred King Star again. She did this to prevent Sacred King Star from secretly following and assassinating Lin Xian after learning about him. As long as Xueqi restrained Sacred King Star, Lin Xian would not be in danger. Sacred King Star could not leave, but he sneered in his heart. Not only did Sacred King Star offend him, but he also offended the Star Tribe. Did Sacred King Star think that he would be safe? He had already sent the news to Ethereal Peak. Ethereal Peak would definitely send experts to kill Sacred King Star. Ethereal Peak. At this moment, Ethereal Peak was in an uproar. This was because a mission was issued. As a disciple of Ethereal Peak, they could accept some missions and carry them out. At this moment, there was a mission. This mission was to kill a person. Countless people were watching because this mission was issued by the Star Tribe. This mission was too simple. It only required them to kill a late-stage Holy Venerate. What a joke. What kind of existence is Ethereal Peak? Is such an ant worthy of us taking action? Some geniuses were disdainful. However, there were also people who said, you don't know. This guy is the guy who defeated Xingqian in Thousand Mountain Cave. They thought that the Star Tribe issued this mission for Xingqian. So it was this guy. Some people nodded and came to a realization. In this way, it could be explained. Although this guy was a late-stage Holy Venerate, his strength was equivalent to a Sage King. To be able to defeat Xingqian, he had some strength. However, I am not interested. Most people shook their heads. There were some who had the idea but did not dare to go. After all, Xingqian's strength in Ethereal Peak was not bad. Since he was defeated, what was the point of those who were weaker than Xingqian going? In the end, 3 people accepted the mission. These 3 were extremely terrifying experts. Their strength was even above Xingqian's. When Xingqian saw the 3 of them accepting the mission, he nodded his head. However, he still frowned. Is this okay? I don't want this guy to escape again. An elder at the side laughed. He is just a young man. No matter how strong he is just an ant in front of Ethereal Peak. The reason for this mission is to train the people of the Ethereal Peak. Furthermore, we will also send a middle-stage Sage King to guard him. Even if the first 3 fail, he won't be able to escape. At this moment, a ring on the elder's hand shone. The last array formation appeared, and a message came from it. There is news from Thousand Mountain Cave. That guy has left the cave. We have also started to move. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.